They got both sides open now. It's cleaning
Well, my truck, properties.
In 5 years, that church is going to get closed down.
Well, bring them in here. I didn't say anything.
What do you say? Good morning. How's your wife?
Okay, how is she doing? She better?
She just had a CAT scan. We'll find out tomorrow.
Oh.
I'll see the doctor tomorrow.
So that's good.
You're getting closer to Craig every week, seems like.
Well, I can see, there's an accident behind, be careful there.
Yeah,
That's an accident that happened. Right
yeah.
there.
And I'll get blamed for it.
Okay. Let me know what you want here.
We're there. Thank you.
Morning.
Can you put these out first? I know fall. So you better start doing something about bringing people into that church or it's going to get closed down.
You guys come to the barber shop, talking about the regular. People come to the barber shop, it's some conversation for a couple of years.
Well, here's the thing with me.
So I don't know what's going on, but.
I get on the float for the church on 4th of July. And you go down the road there, and I've never seen so many kids in my life. Somebody's having kids, and some of them got to be kids. Where are they in church? When are they in church?
Mike, that's a great question. I don't have an answer.
And, you know, you look at ice cars, they're about the only family at 8 o'clock has kids. 4 kids. Or if you go to church open when you got 4 kids.
My grandfather, or Mike.
Hey, Craig.
It's on your paper.
No, how long is that gonna last?
But, yeah, it's very concerning. And I don't think it's just our church.
No. You know, the only thing I can actually say about the group is Barack Obama, but, you know, he said Americans don't want a Christian nation.
Okay.
They want a Christian nation.
Also share information. Okay, understand.
We're getting close to the end time.
I know what to do. So don't forget to get the cord behind you to get out.
Oh, I do. Thank you.
It's an accident
Oh,
happened to
okay.
somebody, be careful.
I see it. Okay, thank you.
Well, you must have seen it when he got over it.
I don't think I did. I got lucky.
Oh, really? Oh, I told Stan, when you get up here, if I forget about it, okay?
So my brake straw, are you starting to feel better? No?
No, Jamie, I'm not.
No?
Is that a new one?
All right, thanks for getting the chair out. And I got your note for signing this in down to Stan, I don't know where it's at. Well, I tend to get down this way. Thank you for the
It's going to be infinitely easier to read.
I will.
at
It's
some
one
point.
break one right now.
Not right this minute, I'm coming in later, so I'm not staying right now. So I'll continue with it.
It's right over there. Just came in there.
How did Jim's wife fare?
I didn't hear anything bad, so it must have been good.
He said it was okay, I sent him an email.
Okay.
He said the doctor thought it was good. So he seemed to be satisfied at the time. And he replied back in.
See, it's 9, let's give it 1 minute, see if Mr. Milton shows up. Oh, it's on his way, so let's go ahead and. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Turn my phone off before. Do we have any public comment this morning? Nope. Okay. Then we're going to move on. I don't know that we have any new business this morning.
Here comes Jim now, I guess I'll come over there.
Oh, okay. Give him 1 second to get in there. Did you see him pull up or was he walking?
You just watch it, I just saw what it's about.
Well, I'll wait for him to come in. Mr. Conan has had to do the
Where are you? Morning.
morning, Jim. Watch out for that cord.
Watch out for the cord.
How's your wife?
Good. Thank you.
I just came over the report I got from you, so they asked the question, so.
How long was the surgery?
4 hours.
It was,
By the time she got in and got
Oh,
out, yeah, so the surgery was actually 2 hours of the surgery.
That's still fine.
Everything went well? So far, so good. She's at home. She's,
That's good, Jim.
she work. Yeah, she does.
Jim, we just opened the meeting, did the pledge of allegiance. We're just to old business. We've just come up with, Mr. Conan has passed out his last revised budget, I believe. There's a few changes to it, some things have happened, I believe.
Before we get started,
Sure.
I just want a couple comments. Before I'm going to vote on the budget for the road district, I want to set up a meeting where we're going to go over those sometime in the future for the intergovernment agreements, and then what we can do with your new price list for your labor and equipment.
Again?
Oh. Sometime before I vote on this budget, I want us to set up a meeting for the board to go over those intergovernment contracts and also
Okay.
your price list of what you're charging for labor
Okay.
and equipment. So I don't know how sometime in the future, do we need a special meeting for that? Can we do that?
Well, I guess my question would be, does the whole board want to meet, or just you, Bob, and one other person could do
Oh,
that?
I guess that's a good question. I would think the board would want to, but we can ask the board, poll the board if they want to.
Okay, what's the pleasure? I mean, I don't know that the whole, my opinion is, I don't know, the whole board needs to go there, 2 of you could go there, and we don't have to have an
But-
official meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure.
We've submitted, we've emailed you all of those IGAs already, I believe, and they have the rates in them. So do you have questions about it, or what's the purpose? What are we trying to get to, so I can get it to you and make sure that we answer the
Well, I would just like
questions?
to have a meeting, we got some verbal questions that will come up from the board members. First, let's see if, does anybody else on the board want to get involved with that?
You do have it, I mean, you've gotten the information already, correct? So,
He would like to discuss it further, I guess, so.
okay.
So, do you want to?
Is it possible to do it today?
Huh?
Is it possible to do it today?
No, I'm not good. I would,
How about this, if everybody wants?
because it's not gonna change anything with this budget. I'm just looking for the future, how it moves in the future. I'm not saying that should be tied into this budget. I think I said that before. I just wanna make sure.
Well, it
as
affects
time
the
goes
future
along.
budget.
Exactly, that's what I'm looking for, yeah.
So why don't we just do it at the beginning of the next meeting, how's that, next Monday?
Or what, do you want it might be easier if just two people came and saw me and we sit down as opposed to the whole board. Either way, I don't really care,
Well,
whatever you want.
I'm willing to come by the other two.
Are you willing to comment?
Well, Mike has an interest, Steve does. I don't-
Well, you all have an interest, so why don't we
All right.
just do it in the beginning of the next meeting? It makes more
Oh,
sense to me.
what next meeting? The
May 13th, I believe.
The annual meet, or the
No.
monthly meeting, you mean? Or
May
the meeting
6th.
here?
May 6th,
I'm sorry, May 6th.
I
I
the
mean,
next budget meeting, which will be next Monday.
we could do it at either, I don't care. What's the pleasure?
It doesn't make any difference to me.
I have
It could be in the future too. I'm looking more for the future.
I have jury duty next Monday.
Okay.
I will not be able to attend.
Why don't we get through the budget thing and get all the budgets lined up and then just have another meeting after that to go?
That's what I like. That's what I would like. I don't want to have that affect what we're
We'll
doing here.
discuss it at the next board meeting, what dates would be. I assume by a week from Thursday, a week
I
from
mean, I don't care if it's a
Thursday.
month, 2 months, just so you know.
Yeah.
time
Let's
goes
just
by.
do it at the next board meeting, then, if that's everybody's pleasure, and everybody's there.
We'll set a date at that
Set a
time.
date.
Well, as long as there won't be any new governmental agreements signed by them.
What was that?
As long as there won't be any new intergovernmental agreements signed by the time of the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Why-
Right? You're not planning on doing that.
Can't think of any.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, let's move on then for Jim to discuss his revised GR, we're gonna do GRB first, Jim?
Well, it is an initial matter. This 1,046,000, are we doing the GRB first?
No, permanent hard road.
But this actually applies to both. The very top number for property tax for the
Yes.
for the 2019-2020 budget on both of the funds. That is the levy that has just gone in. Is that correct?
That is
That
correct.
is what's levied.
Okay. Which is a flat levy from,
Previous years. Yes. No increase.
okay, then my question is, why isn't it the same as the 2018-2019 budget?
Because we rebated or abated 5% last year.
Okay. That explains it.
Okay? You want me to go through?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at the permanent hard road, that's just the one sheet, the other sheet, Bob.
Single sheet.
Okay? There's two changes on here. The first one is the CDBG grant for North Boulevard. We actually received, or were recommended to receive another $70,000 in grant funding as of last Thursday. They had excess funds, or extra funds that weren't used in the sum of $283,000. We reapplied and we are recommended to receive another $70,000. So we would be able to do North Boulevard and North Avenue. So that increased by 60,000 here. It went from 60,000 to 120,000, and then later on you'll see an increase on the general road and bridge for the engineering portion of it. The second thing is we have a community foundation grant, which I inadvertently did not include in this. We are receiving $12,000, us in conjunction with the environmental defenders of Mchenry County applied for a grant from the Community Foundation grant program, and we received $12,000. $1,200 of it is used by the McHenry County environmental defenders from McHenry County, and the remaining $10,800 comes to us. We are using those funds to pay for seeding and weed killer for killing off the right-of-way. What we're planning on doing up in the prairie is converting our back slopes of our ditches to natural vegetation. We started the program last year. We've done 2 areas so far, one area along Ringwood Road and another area along Lincoln Road. And this will allow us to do, I believe, about 6 miles of right-of-way on the back slope. There's a lot of benefits to it. I think I mentioned this already. Do you want me to go through that or no? The benefits are we mow it once a year instead of 3 times a year. It improves for water quality. It's pollinator habitat. So,
When do you mow it?
when do we mow it? At the very, it's either the first cutting, it's at the last cutting at the end of the year. It's the last time that you'll mow it. But we only mow it once. So it'll be the back slopes, not from the ditch to, not from the edge of the road to the center of the ditch, but the back slope itself. So,
And that doesn't, is it a perennial or does it have to be replanted?
no, it's a perennial. Okay?
In the weed killing agents, it's not glyphosate or Roundup or any of that.
I'm not sure exactly what the guys use, but the guys are trained in it, they're licensed in it, so they know what they're doing. That's what we buy. I'm not sure that it's not Roundup. I think it might be. Is it problem with Roundup?
Well, with all
What's
the
funny about it?
with all the links of autism and the use of Roundup, I'm concerned that it's already a carcinogen. It's already a banned carcinogen.
Well,
Doesn't
let me put
somebody?
it this way.
Doesn't
We would
somebody?
only use something that's legal to be used. We'll leave it at that. Okay?
Well, what is it exactly?
I don't know, but I'll find out for you.
And is that for the entirety of the time? That you'll be? It's a one-time spraying.
We spray it twice. What we do is we will spray it twice this fall. We'll spray it in September, and we'll spray it in October. And it'll be, that way the vegetation will die off during the winter season. And then we plant it during the winter season. We actually just broadcast it over the top of the snow this winter, this coming next winter. And then it just migrates as the snow melts, the seed goes into the existing vegetation, and that's how you plant it.
How about if you have high winds and the material gets blown away?
This is, well, you wouldn't do it when you're in high winds, and you do it later in the season to where it's the same method that the conservation district uses. So we do it the way the conservation district does it.
So what does the Mchenry Defenders actually do? They're assisting you in the project, or what?
They are advising us, and they do the documentation for the grant funding.
So when you say advising, they also advise upon
Yes.
what the plant killer
They
is?
reviewed it. Yes, they will. We can have them do that. Yes. Okay.
Well, can have them do it or do it. Which are they? Are
We'll be
they
glad
already
to
in
have
line
them.
to do it?
They already reviewed the plants, the seeds. They have not
Which
reviewed
I'm
the
not concerned
chemical.
about. Yeah,
They have not
okay.
reviewed it, but we'll be glad to have them review it.
Okay. A review of all the chemicals to be applied,
Mm-hmm.
which is an herbicide?
I don't know, off the top of my head. I would assume so.
Because there is a national crisis.
Well, I
with
think
this
it's,
stuff.
Steve, I think that's a good concern because the infiltration to surrounding farm fields and that could be,
We're not using anything that the farmers aren't already using. You do not have to worry about that. And we're not using anything that's illegal.
well,
So
how about
let's not blow this out of proportion here, because that's
No, I'm
what's
not trying to
happening.
blow anything out of proportion, Jim. All I'm saying is that you might have farmers who specifically don't use these materials on their farm fields because they don't want infiltration. And my concern is that they're going out of their way trying to avoid it, and we may be facilitating having it happen.
My judgment would tell you that the amount of weed killer that we use to kill off the weed, the existing grass that's there, so that we can revegetate it, is minimal and will have virtually no impact on anything. We use a weed killer that's perfectly legal. We have a licensed person on our staff who knows exactly how to apply it, when to apply it, and what product to use. So
Well, that's just a one-time thing, right? Because once you get the perennials
we'll
in there.
do it twice. Yes.
But then you're
it's just-
done.
Yes, this is just 1 year.
Right.
We may do spot application if there's problem areas. But again, it's the same method that the Conservation District does, so. Okay? Beyond that, I did get actual, exact figures for salaries. That's why you see the changes there. Those were exact figures given to me by, calculated by Flo. So that's where that came from. Road, repair and construction went up because of the funding, for the additional, anticipated additional funding that we received, so that then we can reconstruct North Avenue in addition to North Boulevard. Okay?
So, is it safe to say that these grant funds are a certainty or not?
Nothing's ever a certainty, but if I were a betting man, I would be glad to bet on it. In other words, I believe we're 90% sure.
The only problem would be, Steve.
The one we have already, the 10,800 we have, that grant is done. We will be receiving that funds within the next month. The environmental defenders already have the money. You follow me? So.
All right, so the
yeah.
10,800 is a certainty, but the
Yes. 60,000 of the 120 is already a certainty also. And 60,000 of the estimated 60,000, I believe, is a relative certainty. It has to go through 3 hearings. It has to go through, I have it on my calendar, I don't remember the name of the county committee, board. I'll just look if you don't mind.
I'm just a little concerned about items, especially when we're getting the money, and we don't really have it, and it might be a possibility.
Well,
of
that's
not
always the
getting it.
case with grants, but it goes through the grant, the Public Health and Community Committee at the county on Thursday at 9 o'clock. Then it goes to the Committee of the Whole meeting at the county board, and then it goes to the final county board approval for it. I am unaware of any that have been recommended that haven't been approved.
All right, so if by some chance.
If it doesn't happen,
it
we
doesn't
won't do
happen,
North Avenue.
Then
Yes.
it won't affect
Yeah.
any other part of the budget.
No,
Okay.
we just won't do it. Okay? So that is your permanent hard road budget, and I think we went through it pretty thoroughly, and we know what we're doing.
I just got one question.
Yeah.
Salaries.
Yes.
Why is there such a discrepancy from 2018?
Remember, because we have more reserves in our general road and bridge fund than we do in our permanent hard road, we transferred some of the upper level staff salaries to
Okay, that's what I
general road and
remember.
bridge.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you.
But otherwise, increases were what you had recommended for increases in salaries through the year. Okay?
One more question on overtime.
Yes.
We did make some suggestions about trying to curb the overtime. Do you foresee implementing any of those?
At the present time, I considered those and been talking with staff about them. Will we implement them yet or not? I do not know. But you've given us suggestions, so I'll go back and be looking at it. We've already talked about it amongst ourselves, how to try to implement such a thing.
So proportionately, given the number of employees, because some were switched to the other budget, these figures are all proportionate to the remaining employees
Yes,
as going from year to year.
yes.
Okay. So it was like 4 people taken off, right?
Yes. Anything else on the permanent hard road?
I'm good.
Okay, so then I'm gonna assume that we're set with the permanent hard road, and this is ready to be presented for approval. Okay? If something comes up, obviously, just let me know, email me, whatever, but, that takes care of that.
So there weren't any no money was used for contingencies
This past year,
this
no,
past year.
not permanent hard road.
And the 25,000 that you have set in this budget is,
We just reduced it. That contingency will come into play though, as we move forward and we have less and less reserves in that. That could be something that I believe it will be needed. You gotta have some sort of contingency in case something comes up. Or there's cost overruns, or remember our construction estimate, our construction projects are just estimates at the present time.
so that, I'm just trying to understand, this is like a miscellaneous fund, that no matter what you need in the PHR down the line, it'll come out of that.
It can come out of that or line item transfers if you're going over budget, yes.
Well, all right, so there'll be no line item transfer. It
Oh, there
goes
might
from
be.
contingency to any of these other items,
Or it
correct?
could be a combination of both.
No, because you can't, we won't just take it out, say we go over the line item, we're not just gonna take it out of the line item, we're gonna apply it to the line item where it belongs, so we know the next year where it should have come from, then we'll do
Not
line item transfer.
necessarily.
Well, normally
Because with contingency, you can only transfer $2,500.
Correct, the
So
transfer amount, that's what he was saying.
track what was spent in contingency and
Correct.
adjust accordingly the following year.
Correct, but there could be line item transfers, as I was trying to point out, and why.
Everybody good?
I'm a comment.
I'm just trying to understand this, okay? Don't get mad at me. Mr. Militello, they can take up to 10% from any line item and switch it to another one, right?
The budget section of the statute, which covers the whole piece, talks about 10% of the overall fund. So in this particular case, the overall fund is 2.8 million. So they could transfer up to some amount of 10% of that amount within line item transfers within the fund itself, not moving from fund to fund, but line items within a fund. So these are all line items within the fund in this particular case. If there's, as pointed out earlier, if there's any cost overruns, they probably apply it first to the line items, and then if there's any deficiency, then they would apply it from any funds that are short. There's funds in order to apply.
And we can only do 10% out of any one given line item too, correct?
Correct. And you have to have the money left over to do it.
So, is the contingency fund considered a line item fund?
You could transfer those funds out of that and apply it to a fund that's short.
Not the entire, only 10%.
10%, could you apply 10%?
It's just easier to use it as a contingency and apply things to that contingency fund and just pay it directly out of contingency, that's all. There's no need to transfer it out, just keep track of what you're spending in contingency, and then if you need to adjust your line item the following year, you do it.
But see, I'm hearing two different things. one that it can be completely, just say that.
It cannot be completely, only 10% of that could be transferred,
Any
which would be
one line
$2,500.
item.
That's all that could be transferred out of that fund, if needed be.
Well, then what's the point of even having it?
Because we don't know what's gonna happen, Steve. Things come up.
All right, so the 2,500 is taken out, there's
And no,
22,500.
we would, just take a step back. Contingency fund. Contingency fund can be used for any budgets, line items that go over, or unexpected expenses. There's no reason to transfer contingency, just just charge it directly to the contingency and use it, that's all, okay? The line items that we would transfer out of, for instance, we might transfer out of road construction, road repair and maintenance. We may have 50,000 left in there, and we may transfer 5,000 into IMRF because we were short on IMRF or something. You know, it applies more toward the general road and bridge than it does to this one. But we're not,
All right, and then how does the reserve figure into it?
how does the reserve figure into it?
Right, I don't see any reserve amount for the road.
This
permanent road
is
fund.
the income.
Right, the income, but
Right,
where,
that's right, hold on. This is the income. This is the money that we're spending. The shortfall is 85,000. That 85,000 at the bottom, negative,
right,
that will come out of the reserves of the
PHR.
permanent hard road, yes.
So since the last year, fiscal year is over,
Mhm.
what is the exact amount of the reserve for PHR?
It's right around 300,000. I don't have it right in front of me. I gave it to you at the last meeting.
So if that's the case, it was 300,000, it's gonna be 215,000
Yeah,
at the end.
it was
of that.
300
That's
some
assuming
thousand. I don't know the exact number, but it was over 300,000. Okay? That all make sense? And if Debbie was here, she would pull it up.
Right,
Right.
but in addition to that, is all the capitalized equipment that could be sold for money on top of it.
Sure.
So I'm trying to figure out the entirety of this budget with all these things that are out there that are part of the equation, but they're not.
How does capital,
The-
actually, equipment doesn't fall under permanent hard road, but how does that apply to the budget? We're not selling anything.
Because if there's a shortfall, these excess items could be sold. There should be a handle on how much money, in terms of equipment, the road district has. How do you even divide it up, the equipment, the trucks, and the conveyor systems and all that? How does that fit between the PHR and the GRP?
All the equipment and trucks and everything else, our equipment and our things that are all in the general road and bridge,
Okay,
period.
all right. So, is there a balance sheet for any of that?
We have our annual,
Pulling it
our
up.
statement of accounts,
That would be on our audit too.
and it is included in the audit, yes. With the figures on depreciation over years, et cetera. It's all included in the audit.
Okay, so any equipment that's sold will never show up on the PHR side of things.
It will not show up on the PHR that I can think. I cannot think of anything that would show up on the PHR, because we're not buying equipment with this, we're not selling equipment with
All right, since we have a member of the public here, could a copy of the budget be provided? Well, I don't want to interrupt here.
it. I got it memorized.
Oh, really? Okay, how much was? Well, I'm sort of interested to know, if we have a contingency fund, $25 of which was used in 2017, $50,000 was budgeted last year, none was used. Why do we have 20, why wasn't it included in the prior budgets of 17, 16, and so on?
It was included in those prior budgets. It just wasn't used. We must have done a good job of budgeting.
And you're saying the reason why the $25,000 must be there, even though none was used last year, is because you might get caught with what in terms of the PHR?
What things could happen? We have a worse winter than we had this year, and we have more overtime, would be one. We have road construction projects that come in higher than originally expected, and we could use it for that. Those are the two that I can think of.
Well, this was a pretty bad winter, right?
Yeah. But then if you go back a couple of years, you'll see, you know, what we did was we took 10% as overtime. And you look at the last 3 winters, and it's varied to 10% above and below. So it goes back and forth.
Well, that gets back to what Mr. Ragshaw was talking about.
Mhm.
At least some of the employees being on a
Got
swing.
it right here.
Yeah, swing time thing to try and reduce the overtime based on, at least for some of the employees, a flexible working
Sure.
time. When you know a storm is going to hit after working hours and all
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
All right, so besides the overtime, what were the other things that the contingency fund is sort of a hedge for?
Could be road construction projects, road maintenance and construction.
Are there any road construction projects set for next year?
There are all kinds set for next year. They were all listed, we just talked about North Avenue, North Boulevard. We are reconstructing.
So these would be overruns?
Yes, okay. All of Shalimar Estates. Mineral Springs, the drive. Mid Oak, Elm Oak, Fair Oak in Emerald, whatever that subdivision is called there. East Pistaki Association, which is Regner Road and that loop road. Can't think of the other roads, but they were all listed and provided to you previously what those road construction projects were. They were the attached sheets that I had previously given you.
All right, so besides the overtime, cost overruns would come out of it. Anything else?
That's all I can think of. And Indian Ridge Ravine, so.
But that means then last year you did an excellent job in not getting any cost overruns and scheduling enough overtime to cover everything. Correct?
We tried to do a good job.
Also, I like to point out, he didn't spend it just because it was there, okay?
So then that would go, if there was an excess, it would then go to the reserves, I take it.
It goes to next,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
So this 50,000 that was unused from last year's budget is now part of the 85,000 shortfall, making up part of
The reserve went down. If you look at, we actually spent 300 and some thousand more last year than we took in,
397.
390.
which is this number right here in parentheses.
What was it, 397 or 361? 100,000. Well,
You get a balance sheet at the, you'll get
Yeah,
the.
We just updated some
you
figures
just-
that
yeah,
Jim
and it
probably
was
didn't
just
have.
updated at the last meeting. So your last board meeting, you have the actual balance sheets. Gives you all the numbers.
okay. So when we get to the final budget to vote on, we'll have those.
You already have that.
Then,
That's the final numbers that he had for March.
is that for both?
That's all
The
done.
hard road and, or just the permanent hard road?
It's for both. And we have, according to, Debbie, I don't know where you got the 391, we have 361 here, or 397, we have 361 here.
That's what your balance sheet shows for right now.
So
For
our,
both.
what's that?
That's the ending balance for PHR and GRB as of 3/31. That is without the auditors going through it or any journals being done. That won't be
So-
done until after the audit.
Okay.
There were some slight changes from the last board meeting until now, things that we had to put in, so, which came up now.
Okay, so at some point before we actually vote on the thing, everything will be updated as best it can possibly be, right?
Right
Yeah,
now, it's up
it all is
as far
except
as it can be.
I think it all is except for that
For the
particular.
line, all the line items,
Are correct.
those are specific and done already. For the individual line items.
You see where we're coming from. We don't know what goes on in your office, okay? And we're just stuck with this. And it's like, take it or leave it, this is what it is. And I'm just trying to get a handle on what these numbers mean. Because we're talking about millions of dollars ultimately. And, for example, does the $25,000 contingency in the proposed 2019-20 PHR budget, that's a different 25,000 contingency than in the GBR here, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. But yet, this net,
Can I just say something, Steve? The reason I would say it's in the other, because you can't transfer from this fund to the other one. Is that correct, why you got it both of them?
That's correct.
You have to use it.
They have to be separate, they're
All right,
separate
so-
budgets.
Yeah, so you can't transfer from one budget to another.
so each one has its own reserve.
Correct, they're
Yeah.
totally
It's
separate.
its own fund.
They're separate funds, they can't be, you can't intermix the funds.
So we're talking about 1%, we have a contingency of 1% of our total budget. So our budget is 2.8. I'm just rounding off, obviously, it's less than 1%.
Yes, and no contingency used last year, although $50,000 was
Right.
earmarked for it.
Mhm.
And $25 was actually used in the 2017-2018 budget. So I'm just, I'm just trying to understand why the differential, and it is a significant fluctuation. It's 100 times, actually 1,000 times. You're asking 1,000 times more than was actually spent 2 years ago. And 25,000 times more than was spent last year. So it's not 1% of the entire budget. That's not how it
It's
should be
less than
looked
1%
at.
of the
That's less than
entire budget.
1% of the entire budget, it is.
But for that one line item, it's a gigantic increase, okay? That's what sticks out to a layman looking at it, okay?
I guess I
Does
don't
anybody
understand.
disagree
I
that
don't-
we
I don't
does
understand,
anybody
Steve.
disagree with having a contingency in the
I
budget?
think you gotta have a contingency, he's proven he doesn't spend it if he doesn't need it. What's the issue? I don't
I
get
don't
it.
disagree with it.
I don't
For
either.
having it in the budget.
Something might happen, you have to have a contingency.
All right, so the last year's 50,000 contingency becomes part of the reserve.
It gets
The carryover.
carried over, yes.
Well,
But in
it's just
theory, it
money that was
doesn't.
never spent.
It was never spent, so,
But the reserve went down because we spent more
Right.
money than we took in.
right, the reserve already went down because we're spending more than we're taking in.
But it went down less because of the
Yeah.
contingency.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So I think the board is just trying to get at a true understanding of how much is actually being expended per
I
given
think-
year.
Stan, do you understand?
I understand.
Does
Mike, do
anybody,
you understand?
does anybody else want to continue on this topic? I think it's, you know,
I'm okay with this
are
budget.
you okay with this?
I'm okay.
Are you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, Steve, we're done. Move on.
Permanent hardwood, I think we're set on. If something comes up, you think there's something, don't hesitate to call me.
Brian,
It's
I
just
like
not
your
a
question,
big deal.
Steve, but I'm ready to move on to it. But a comment I'm gonna make is how much easier this is to read than the last ones. How much easier it is to read with the lines across.
That was a good,
You came up
that
with
was a
good
good,
suggestions, Mike, but this
that was
is
a
so
great
much
suggestion,
easier
Mike.
to read this.
great
So
suggestion.
thanks for the suggestion. And thanks for putting it in, but it's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And make a comment on it, so much easier to read.
So, we'll move to the general road and bridge then. You ready? The general road and bridge, revenue, there's been one change to the revenue, and that's related to the grant funding that we anticipate, that we just got, that we, got recommended for last Thursday, which is $10,000. So it went from, 12,000 to 22,000. Okay?
Are there any more grants anticipated for
No.
the GRB?
No. Okay. Salaries, again, the only modification there is based on actual figures that were supplied to me by Flo, in particular. So she actually did the calculation. I was just using percentages based off of previous years. She did the calculation for us, so they're exact. They're pretty exact, let me put it that way. You'll see one change that I want to point out, and that's HRA. That is the amount of funding that the county or the township pays. That is the maximum we would pay, is $26,000. You can see in previous years it was $11,000, $9,000, $2,500. The staff from the township recommended that we make that the max, so that we're budgeted for it, which is what you guys always do.
We always put in worst case
Yes.
scenario.
Okay?
What is HRA?
HRA is our health,
Health reimbursement.
Reimbursement,
account.
okay, got it, thank you.
and that covers that large
Health
deductible,
reimbursement.
part of that large deductible.
Thank you.
So, I did change that. Instead of trying to take an average, I put the max in there.
So you don't anticipate spending the 26,000?
The possibility.
It's a possibility,
It's a
but
possibility,
probably
but
not.
probably
Yeah,
not, right?
exactly.
Right. Just in case everybody had a claim at the maximum, that's what it is. Probably will never happen, but just in case.
We're very healthy.
I thought you had some bad shoulders.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah. All right, contractual services. What the heck did I do there? I gotta remember now. Let me look at the last time, our last meeting minutes.
Well, with consulting, you reduced from 25 to 10,000.
What's that?
With consulting, is that what you're looking at on the contractual
No, I was
services?
looking at under, consultant services and recycling. But actually, they're the same as they were the last meeting. That did not change.
That did not change.
Since the last meeting, but, that was it. Capital outlay, we reduced it, but that was already done at the last meeting like we had talked about. Okay?
I'm gonna go back to the contractual services though.
Which one was that?
You've got, what is the publishing and printing, what is that used for?
That was used for our newsletter, and you can see that we've substantially reduced our newsletter. And, this year, are we doing it through the Northwest Herald?
The Northwest Herald's assisting us in getting ads.
Yeah.
And actually, they're gonna print it too at a much cheaper cost.
Well, when we get to the town fund, I'm gonna recommend that we actually get rid of the newsletter. So that could be a change
Well,
there.
that's an issue, because we're out getting ads right now.
Huh?
We're out getting ads for the newsletter right now.
Well,
to try to
then we can move forward. I know, if you, some of the things that I want changes, if we got different contracts you're committed for, well, we gotta follow those commitments. But I do know some of the things that I want changes can't be done right now.
Okay.
So I wanna know how we get into the next
If
cycle.
you wanted to do it to the next year,
How
we
How we
could.
move into it.
Okay.
That's my whole point.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But,
Well, we'll keep that in there and then adjust accordingly in the future. And again, whatever we don't need, we don't spend. Okay? So I think that takes us through page 2. Everybody's good through page 2? On page 3, bridge repairs, again, you'll notice the change there was I put a thing in there to, where the heck did that go now? That it would be listed, the 4 stars on bridge. These are little 4 asterisks, or whatever you call them. That, I should have had a note on there that that's gonna be committed fund like you wanted.
so that will be in the final.
Yeah. Somehow it got off of here, and I had it, and then I'm not sure what happened there.
And that's the only committed fund?
Yes.
To the G?
Yes. And then, also, engineering went up because of the added road, North Avenue. It went up to 390, but that is related to the North Avenue engineering, the grant that we hope to receive.
So how much of the $60,000 grant is included in that?
It was a $70,000 grant, and 10,000 is for engineering.
So
10 of the grant money will be associated with engineering. The engineering is actually slightly more than that. Okay?
So you increased that
Yes.
figure by how much from the last budget, last proposed budget?
One second here. $357 to $390.
You've got the committed fund marked on the bottom of your list there, with the 4 stars.
Oh, he does.
See
I
it?
have what?
Oh, we should.
On the bottom of your contract.
the next page?
You covered that.
You only put 3
So you're
stars.
good.
You only put 3 stars, so I should add it all.
But, no, it's got 4. It's done.
What did you say?
Right at the very bottom of the page.
Remember he
There's
said he
3
had
stars.
the
I know, well, he meant.
marks up here for committed fund?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not, wait a minute.
Well, you got
I have the 4 stars, I just didn't say
but
what the 4
it
stars
might be,
Oh,
were for.
maybe that should be on the bottom here,
That says maintenance service NDR under the 3 stars.
because somehow,
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, got it.
right here he's talking about, right here.
Oh,
Thought I was wrong, but I guess it wasn't.
There you go, there's the 4 stars.
Okay.
That's for the bridge
Oh,
repair.
So you get the idea.
I got
Get
it,
the
I
idea.
got it finally.
We also added in some of these roads that we're getting from the county. We had previously been using subcontractors to plow those because our equipment just isn't made and the condition of the roads are pretty bad. They can't handle our heavy equipment. We are continuing to do some of those roads over the next year. Okay? So that's that 15,000 that I forgot to put in previously.
Besides the snow plowing, is there any other kind of subcontracting work for those roads?
There may be some tree removal, that would be about it. Trees that are larger than we're able to remove.
What is the largest tree that you can in-house remove?
I don't know off the top of my head the length of it.
Wouldn't it be more, well, I guess.
It's related to the length of our bucket and how big, how high our bucket can go compared to what a landscaping company will have. Number one. Number two, the other things that we do is if we're working around wires and it's not something that we would feel comfortable with, we'll hire that out. Number three, if it's such a large tree, you know, the trunk is just huge, bigger than our equipment, we contract it out.
So last year, for example,
Yes.
that's now been completed, how many times did that happen?
I think 3 times.
And where does it show up on the,
Tree trimming up above.
okay?
Just under engineering.
All right, so the tree trimming is really a that's a figure for, it was totally contracted for. And then what you guys do is just in the ordinary, regular,
Those
Service budget.
trees are larger trees or situations that we will handle ourselves, yes.
So when you contract out, it's not necessary that they remove the whole tree, they just remove the part that you feel uncomfortable?
They'll take it all the way down to the stump, and then we'll go in and grind out the stump. All right, we'll move down from contractual services to commodities. And that was, that one was there from last time already, was the salt. The salt figure we were adjusting. Okay? And I think I explained that last
Right,
time.
so there's a 2-year window, you could get salt up to 2 years for what you
Yes.
paid the last time.
Yes. And
So-
then we were going out for bid for an additional 1,000 ton of salt because we had depleted our reserves so much on the salt.
Did you use any salt a couple days ago?
Yesterday, you mean? No, Saturday, I'm sorry. We did go out very shortly for the main lines because there was a chance that there would be a freeze back overnight. So we did very minimally, as did the county and the state in other road districts.
In the total amount of salt you have now is what?
We just got we have to do it for the audit, and the number was 900 ton, I believe, right around 900 and some, less than 1,000 ton.
And you need, how much with the reserve? How many tons?
How many tons we would add another 1,000 ton? And then do our annual purchase of 2,400 ton. Which was 2,000 in the past, but this year we upped it to 24 to build it back up.
So 4,300 tons, it's the total amount.
Yes. And again, we don't have to take all of that if we don't need it. We would get 1,000, 2,400 ton, we can take as little as 80% of that.
But because of the price differential,
We would probably want to take it all, you're
we'd be
right.
fools not to.
Plus the 20% on top of it.
And then
What
there's-
capacity are you at right now as far as room for the salt?
Our salt dome holds about 3,500 ton, and we have 1,000 ton in there. So we have 2,500 more of room. So we will order salt to fill it up before the snow season, and then as we deplete it, we'll add more.
So does that mean that the old salt is always at the bottom?
Yes, that is true. Still works though. Until this year, we actually, since we had to empty out the salt dome to do the conveyor stuff, we actually took the old salt and we had moved it all, so it's all mixed in, because we recoated our interior walls of the salt dome also while we had our reserves down so far, and we're doing maintenance.
So that $260,000 figure represents an increase of how much from what we had in the past?
Well, we had 120 in 2016-17, 83,000.
No, I mean from the last budget that we had.
We spent 170,000 this past year.
No, I mean, how did this figure, you got it in yellow, so it was a change, right? So
Yes.
what had it done?
What did I have it at earlier?
Yeah.
340,000. But I hadn't accounted for that we're gonna use MFT funds to pay for the salt.
Okay. Right, now,
Yeah.
okay, that was the
Okay.
differential.
So that's our commodities. I think we're pretty well set there. So that's the end of page 3. And the only thing that changes on page 4 was the total at the bottom, just because of our adjustments that were made earlier. That's the only thing that changes. Okay? And that change was, decrease from 840,880 to 792,254. Okay? And if there's nothing else with that budget, that's where we'll go with that one also.
So the net loss, this figure?
Yep. That will come out of the reserves.
I don't know more questions, I do have a question though before he leaves, but maybe any more questions on the budget?
Questions on this budget?
I have no questions on it. The last time I brought up about your former Dennis McFarland,
Yes.
you said he's no longer with you.
Yes.
How long has he been gone?
I believe either January or February.
And why don't you leave him go?
I would suspect that we should discuss that in.
Private?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Has he been replaced, is there, everybody else using a taxpayer-funded vehicle, go back and forth to work
No,
like he did?
no.
So then I'd like to have the discussion in the executive session at the next meeting then, for why he was let go.
Okay, we'll add it to the,
Actually,
all right.
Well, that presumes he'll be there. Are you planning on being it then?
I try to be there unless there's,
he's usually at the meeting. He's usually there. Yeah. He's usually there.
I could come and visit with you.
All right, that being said, let's take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll move on to the town budget. And I think what we'll do is start with the assessor first, to see if we can knock that piece out. I think we're pretty much done with that, but let's bring her in and ask any questions. So in the meantime, let's take a 5-minute recess. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Be back at about 5 after 10.
Thanks, Jim. I just did it.
Hey, Dan, you know that there's an alternative to jury?
Yeah, but don't give up on it, too. Something's gotta do it.
No, I know,
You might
there's a
get-
way to, there's something you can do to replace that.
I know, what's it called? When there's a death and it's, what's it called?
I haven't had to do it, I don't know.
It's,
Coroner's inquest.
inquest,
Yeah, I've done that.
coroner's inquest.
Done that twice, 2 trials, twice. I'm sorry. Good citizen.
Well, it's a one night, it's one day.
I know,
You go
that's
in
the
at
coroner's
night.
inquest.
As an alternative?
Listen, are you kidding me? I hope I get sequestered. I want to be done with this stupid deed. Oh, did I say that? I said what I thought. You're not supposed to do that. It's ridiculous. These are taking 10 times longer than they should.
We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Shouldn't be ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. The cheese. Do you know how much he's making that costume?
Isn't it important that they be held accountable for what their budget is?
Absolutely. Does it take meeting after meeting to go over and over and over? Do you know how many times questions have been that has come up, that has been answered several times? The amount of roads. Do you know how many times that's come up? At least 4 times. Okay. I know.
Is it the
It's
same answer?
95, yes,
Same.
95, 6, and 109 miles of road. I've got that memorized, because it's been asked 3 or 4 different times. He doesn't want you for free. This is all cha-ching. So far, I estimate you've spent close to, what, on better half of $20,000. You only saved $8,000. No, I don't. I know the figures. It's ridiculous. You're spending hundreds to save pennies. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. On purpose. Drag somehow over again. There's no way they should master that. You could cancel all the stuff. I mean, it's breaking everything. I'm just venting. I'm getting so frustrated with these things. I am so happy to be called to jury duty next week. I can't wait.
Hey Deb, did you have those ending balances for those accounts?
Pardon me?
Did you have that, you said those ending balances? Did you have those?
Mike, I
I didn't hear
don't,
what
Stan?
those ending balances were.
How you feeling?
No better.
No? No,
Oh.
I guess I see the pictures.
You right on there.
Hi, Mary. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you.
What?
PHR 17746.
Slap me later.
It's not what?
Slap me later.
And then GRB is 19938. So that's the ending.
That's the total.
Right, and that's as of 3/31 without any,
Adjustments.
Did you get any?
yeah.
Got it.
For what? No, well, I got called into the courtroom today.
Dreary Monday, huh?
Boy,
Thank you.
Yeah.
it all got up. Supposed to rain till like 1 or 2.
Actually, it was they picked first, like,
No.
Oh, goodness gracious. Although we're sure getting our measure of that.
A friend of mine said they
So we're
picked
trying to
snow and grass. He said, tell me when you can have it.
And one also,
Plow
so they
in
can
the
do
morning,
that.
get the rest.
Really?
Yeah, so they did, well, I didn't either, but I know. So I,
Thank you.
yeah, we were excused, but they was the only one.
This would be good for me.
Yeah, it's, Saturday, pretty wild. And Sunday, everybody was complaining about it. By 2 o'clock, the law was coming on.
Some pictures that are not.
I bet.
So,
Yeah, no, I'd like to, it's, it's for a long time, I never got called out of the room.
I was just let, let's get one scared.
So the nurse said,
she kind of, they kind of
it's
pulled,
part of her job, I mean, part of her duties.
it was like a wedding.
That's scary.
And was she scared about that? She was so out of it coming out of it, but, you know, so it was.
There was more crime in that.
No control. No. I wonder if they do that one for the movies then. Because how do you fake it?
So, it literally, yeah, I don't know how you.
So I think probably do that. I never thought about it. Oh my God.
But, you know, when you see that in a movie, the person really like it. It's really right. So I wonder.
I don't know, yeah, but anyway, you're talking, you saw first. Now you gotta be scared.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that she's,
Yeah, it was really good. So everything's good.
now how long is she gonna be out?
Yeah.
She'll be out, she'll be out for May 13th.
Some of it's more obvious than others, but.
She'll be out now. It's gotta be careful.
Oh, I wish I knew what they were gonna ask me, that would be good.
She types it.
I've had people ask me that in the barber shop, and I say, who saved me, is I don't do much work with scissors, I do most of
I can answer that.
yeah, because I suffer from that problem with that. If I was using scissors all the time, you know, I just kind of trim up the edges with scissors and clean out. Most of the time I do it with my haircut, like, you know, thick clippers. And I think that has saved me up to now.
There's a lot of people that get it, I mean, they're, you know, with the computers and keyboard.
Yeah. You never heard of that?
No.
Back when, years ago, the iron barber shop went up.
I was going to a dentist, Dr. Ford, Mchenry, and, you know, they're always leaning over. Oh, sure, he was getting a lot of back pain. He went to the doctor and they gave him steroids for it. And he said, it was almost like immediately, he was he felt like a different guy. So the next time he went in, he says, "Where do you sell this stuff by the 55-gallon drum?"
Even a lot of doctor's offices, they have those pads, those comfort pads now. You'll see like people that are checking out, that are doing where they're standing. But there's another thing to give you a shot, like a joint. But if you're having problems with the knees, you want to do it.
That's what I want. I want to get one of those shots in each one of my
But it
knees.
doesn't last forever.
Well, no, but if I could just,
Is your
If I
phone
get
sleep
sleep
at
at
night?
Cortisone.
I can't sleep.
Is it your knees that bother you?
Oh, my knees just throb.
It's more than
You
your
should give
legs.
me a call, we could talk all night, cause I can't sleep.
That cortisone is gonna give you so much of it.
It'll give you some relief.
It's a bummer after a while.
How you doing, Steve?
You're tired all day long.
Uh-huh. I've been having problems with my neck muscles and stuff like that. And they feel almost to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's call the meeting back to order. We have the assessor here to discuss anything left on her budget you may want to ask. I don't believe anything's changed since the last time she was here.
The only thing, I put down two things in my notes here. For your dues and subscriptions, I think we probably asked that question again, but out of my mind. What are your dues for?
The dues have been for assessment associations, the Illinois International Assessing.
And so if you didn't have that, what kind of a negative problem would you have in your office if we took that out of there?
It's information that comes from other assessment officials that, if you have something that's not typical in your area, you haven't seen before, is it going to break my budget? No.
So if you miss it, it wouldn't affect your duties?
Well, sure, it can. It can, but
How about
if that's
the
gonna make you happy, go ahead. If that's
How's
gonna
it
make
take
you
out?
happy.
Wait a minute, she can't take it all out.
Okay.
There's some TOI dues in there that she has to pay.
She
So we-
has TOI dues too?
No, she does not.
No, I don't pay TIA.
No, she does
Oh,
not.
it comes out of my budget, I'm sorry.
No, I do.
I
We do-
apologize, I thought it was
We
split.
do, the local Mchenry County Assessors Association comes out of that too,
I'd say take it out. And then how about your subscriptions? What are we getting for that?
subscriptions was, that's basically our Marshall and Swift, our cost tables for construction costs that we use. It's a yearly subscription, those values change yearly, and it's a service that we need to have.
It's a service. Why would a service be described as subscriptions?
Because it's a
It's
subscription
throws me off a little
to
bit.
Marshall and Swift, to their program to get their values. And they update different parts of that throughout the year, and then, so that we're updated on cost, the cost tables.
If you read that, Jonathan read in the budget, did you know what that meant?
No.
I didn't either. That's
That
okay.
what?
I didn't know what that meant, subscriptions.
Well, I told you that before, but that's okay.
I know, but, okay. Maybe you could describe that a little better. I don't know how you could describe that line item.
We could put a note
Well-
after, we could put a note after it here.
Actually, and also I believe in there is our subscription to the Herald as part of that dues also. We get that,
Subscription.
we get the paper and online for that. And we need that for information going on in the township and for fires,
Okay,
information.
so then I would say at least take the dues out then. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, wait, let's be clear, so let's make sure everybody wants to do that.
That's
$2,200.
what I just suggested.
Bob's suggesting we take $2,200 out in dues. Bob's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. Stan?
Yes.
And Steve? Is he,
You mean take
So
the
can-
entirety out?
he's saying take the
Okay.
entirety of dues.
But the dues and subscriptions were 2,200, but 1,500 of that is subscription.
I'm talking about taking just the dues out.
So we would leave the 1,500 as subscription.
Yes.
Mary,
I'm just saying, what I'm saying is take the dues out.
Well, we have in the new column, it has 250 for dues.
Dues.
Oh, I'm
all
sorry,
right,
look
so
at the
on
wrong
your
column.
dues, you
Yeah.
have the notary, your Illinois assessors, the Northwest Herald, International AA, I forget what that one is. Marshall and Swift, and the McHenry County Assessors.
That's all up for $250?
No, that was last year, so she broke it down. So Marshall and Swift is now under,
Subscription.
Subscriptions.
And how
Or
much is
dues.
the Marshall and Swift
That's
subscription?
like 1,200 a year,
Yeah,
11 something,
1,200.
1,200 a year.
that was last year. Now I can look at the other line item if you want.
So if we eliminate the dues, we're just eliminating $250. What you're saying, right?
That's all it was budgeted, yes.
So then you have to change like where you put your notary and whatnot.
Well, doesn't the township have a notary?
Yeah, but they
It's
have
in
to
full
merge
scheme
Those
on
are-
notary?
No, but
Those are-
they need notaries because constantly, we can't get by with just one notary around here.
Those
That's
are
all we
not,
have
once
is
those
one.
are paid,
No.
those are good for 4 years.
One-
We
Yeah,
have-
they're
We
good
have
for
about-
4 years.
Those are not updated.
I don't know.
Every 4 years, we have about 6 of them. Everything in that assessor's office has to be
They're all updated
notarized.
now.
Well, then you're good.
So if we're not here, we have some for the township, we have some for the assessor's office. And it's a very minimal fee, it's not that much. It's for 4 years.
She's up to date right now, so she's good.
All right, so really there is no notary then for this year? How many
For the
notaries do you
upcoming-
have?
We have 4.
Okay, and,
They're all updated in the previous budget.
okay, so
There would not be any in this next year's budget.
so we're just talking about dues now, right? You don't count that as a subscription, do you?
No, generally, in the past, I've taken that out of miscellaneous for a notary fee.
Well, if it's an essential thing you need, then I think it should have its own line item in future budgets, so that everybody knows what it is and what it's for.
It's not necessary in the next budget, so but you can put a line item there with 0, but I guess.
All right, so what, the dues, the 250 dues for this budget is for what? This international thing that we certainly don't need, and what else? And how many subscriptions in Northwest Carroll?
1 subscription. That includes the online.
But that's in the,
You can't get an online subscription without a paper subscription,
Right,
so
correct.
it's
They come
it's
together.
combined.
but that's under subscriptions, not under dues, right?
It should be, and that the Herald is like 130, 150.
I can tell you.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what it's under. Subscriptions?
That's where it should be.
Everything was under dues and subscriptions up until now. She
Right.
just broke it down for this new budget, so last year, everything was paid out of, they were combined. I guess is the best way to, it was a combined line item.
So that 1,500 should cover the Marshall and Swift and the newspaper subscriptions, right?
Right, I believe so. I'm checking it right.
And then the dues
No.
would be, it sounds like what you're looking is to get rid of the 170 for the
Yeah, it's
international.
190 for the
That's
international.
170, isn't it? So what's 90?
190
Okay,
is what we paid last year.
okay.
For the Herald?
No,
No, for the international.
for the international.
Dues we're talking about.
That's dues.
So you take that off, you're down to $60.
And that's for this town, that's for this inter-township dues?
The dues would be the McHenry County Assessors Association
And
and
the Illinois assessor.
Illinois Assessing.
And how much is the Illinois stuff?
I think it's all covered in $60.
Yeah.
And that's essential from your
And the
point of
county was
view.
40.
Yes.
And the what's for it?
County. So, $100 would cover them both.
So you need to make that $100 there.
Right, so it's down to 100 with those 2 dues requiring organization.
So it would be coming down, that whole, what used to be one amount of 2,200 would be coming down to 1,600, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Or 150, yeah,
So 1,500 and 100?
correct.
So 1,600.
Well, no, they're separate line items, so we're sticking to how they are presented now. So it's 100 for dues.
Yes, but if you add 100 to 1,500, it's 1,600.
So you can
That's just
compare
trying to
it, so you can compare
consolidate.
it to last year.
$100 and 1,500.
So what we could do is take the line item, the dues out of there, and put another $100 or so on the subscriptions. It seems like when you've got it broken down into two, it's a little confusing.
How confusing is it? There's subscriptions,
Well,
there's dues.
Well,
You've
why didn't you,
broken it down
why didn't you
to
just break it down now? Before you didn't have it that way.
I've answered your questions. You know what the subscriptions are. There's Marshall and Swift and the newspaper. $1,500. The dues, $100, will cover Illinois assessing officials and McHenry County assessment officials.
So
I
then
don't
what
know
we
how
should do is change
clear
that
I-
line item to $100.
Correct.
That's why we keep the dues. We have to keep it, right. yeah.
Okay. So then we'll change that line item to move on to $100.
Okay.
right?
So we're done with that? Then, okay. Any other questions on Mary's?
So the total gasoline consumption for the year is $1,200 on 3 vehicles?
It is. That's what we budgeted. It was slightly less than that, I believe.
And we need 3 vehicles, why?
Because I have 3 field staff and I go out separately at times. And this coming year is a quadrennial and we'll have more properties to cover.
And this 1,200 is really paid to the road district,
Correct. Excuse me.
So the mileage is rather small on the 3 vehicles.
Just within the township.
Yeah, you have those breakdowns.
Yeah, we gave you all those.
Well, for the most part, it's just within the township. Sometimes there are trips for classes to Springfield.
Out of that or training, when they make these extracurricular trips outside of the township?
Well, we never had a fuel line before this particular budget. So fuel would have,
It still comes out of the fuel line.
We didn't break it down, so it is coming out.
It all came out of the town.
Town fuel. So now we're breaking it
No, we
down
broke it down by
by
department.
department.
So the travel and mileage line is for what? That's really what it goes, when people need to go to Springfield, or?
Classes. That's part of the permitting resolution.
it's for classes, like deputy assessors and myself. We need to have continuing education. So those come out of that. And we travel to and from the locations.
And where's the continuing education cost?
That'd be training.
So there isn't really a contingency. The miscellaneous then becomes the contingency for your particular fund.
Correct.
It's been cut in half, so what's ordinarily used for that? These notary things, right? What else?
We were taking, and we broke it down. We took, it used to be some of the clothing stuff, and we moved that into commodities, so we created a different line for that.
You want to know what last year's was?
Let's see, sometimes I've had several employees that have had deaths in their families by flowers. Things like that. Things that are unexpected costs.
So then, even though you're cutting this international subscription, you can just get it with the miscellaneous, right? Is it, Mr. Milton, is that solid?
Well, if you want to keep the line items where things are being paid for, I'd suggest you keep it in subscriptions, because that's what you've broken it down to. You wanted to know what subscriptions were, and
No,
what
you're
dues are.
avoiding my question.
No,
Okay.
then there wouldn't be a need for a miscellaneous.
If we say no to the international subscription,
Are
the assessor can just say, well, it's coming out of miscellaneous. I've decided that it can do that.
It's within our budget.
Okay. So now I'm asking you, do you plan on doing that?
Do I plan on doing what?
All right. What is the actual title?
Now, what was your question? Do I plan
I'm
on
giving
doing
it
what?
to you. What is the actual title of this international assessor subscription?
We've already talked about that, it's gone. You'd already took that out. We're
No,
saying not to do that.
We
That
think
was-
we may have taken it out,
You
not if
did.
it comes back under miscellaneous.
It's $190.
Right. So I'm asking you, if we take it out of this line item, can it come back in as a miscellaneous expense?
Sure, I imagine I can use miscellaneous for whatever I want to use it for.
Okay, so then, just what I said. We think we're taking it out, but it may not be out. That's it. That's all I'm bringing up. So this is a total discretionary account. So how much was spent on flowers for deceased family members
I
last
don't
year?
have a breakdown, $120.
Then I suggest we have a line item just for that.
I'm not
That's
gonna
the-
keep creating line items for every little thing, Steve.
It's not every little thing.
Yeah, it is. Flowers is a little thing, and it becomes a nightmare.
Then we
Okay?
then we're gonna have to cut miscellaneous.
No, we're not. That's your opinion. I haven't heard anybody else say that.
Because it just gives the assessor the ability to undo what we're doing line by line. I'm trying to avoid that
She's gonna
by
undo
creating a separate
She's gonna undo
classification.
$190, Steve. That's really gonna be a big deal, okay? And I don't think she's gonna do it if you told her not to do it, so.
Well, I put the question to her, I didn't get an answer. Are you going to resubscribe to that publication?
No. It apparently bothers you guys, so I'm not gonna do it. I don't know why it bothers you, but
It bothers us because you haven't maintained to us a necessary explanation about why you need it.
I've given you an explanation. You don't understand my job, so you don't understand why I need it. But
I
will
do
not
understand your
be
job, and I understand
doing
you
it.
said you never used the computer inquiry that came with the international subscription, okay? So to my mind, it's not really necessary,
And that's fine, so take it out.
and we're trying to cut.
I get that.
We do more for less. That's the motto of the township, right?
We've cut 10,000 out of my budget, and it's gonna be a little more apparently. I just would appreciate it if you'd kind of finish it so I could move on and
So first of all, Steve is suggesting that, what are we suggesting at this point? Anything?
We're suggesting that the dues go down to the 100,
Okay.
since it's a separate line item now.
But you were just talking about miscellaneous a minute ago, eliminating it, so are we not talking about that?
Well, we have a commitment out of the assessor not to resubscribe to it and use the money for miscellaneous, okay?
Okay. Well, then we're good. Then we're good. Any other questions on her budget?
I would like to get back to salaries.
Okay.
I really do believe that you are saying that you start people out at $15 an hour,
yes.
and this is in many cases entry-level jobs, measuring and driving and observing properties in that entry level, correct?
It's entry level, yes.
I mean, what is the minimum wage in Illinois?
Minimum wage right now is $8.50. It's gonna be $9 in January. And then in July, it's gonna be more than that.
Was it 12, I think?
It's eventually going to 15.
Yeah, it's going to go.
Correct.
But I guess I'm just trying to be frugal, and I understand that you want to try to find good employees, understandable. But you can find good people at closer to a minimum wage than you are, I think, personally, right now. And I'd like to see you reconsider adjusting that minimum wage.
Thanks for your input, but I need good people. These
I
people
understand
go
that.
to the properties. You can work at Aldi for almost $14 an hour, stocking shelves. My field people who are my entry level, this is a customer service department. We deal with people all the time, sometimes angry people. It may be technically an entry level because they're just starting, but it's a very detailed job. And
Okay.
I've had trouble getting people to work for $12 an hour. I need people.
Well, that's closer to what I would
But
like
I
to
can't
see.
get, I want good people. I want people who are going to do
But,
the job.
okay, why couldn't you have a probationary period where you start them at a certain salary and they prove themselves, and then jump them up once they've proven themselves?
Because I want to hire people, and if they're doing the work, and if they end up not making it through a probationary period, they're done, and I'm moving on. But I have done an extensive amount of research into who I hire. I've hired 2 people. They're staying. They're good. They're working out. And I want them to stay. And I want them to stay for a long period of time, because continuity in this office is very important.
I can understand that.
And so, not to be rude, but your job is to tell me what I can spend on salaries. And if that means that there's going to be a cut, I'll find somewhere else to cut it. But I'm not paying them less than $15 an hour.
I think, I'm gonna agree with Mary here, that the market is good out there right now. People can jump jobs easily for that amount of money in an entry-level job today.
Yeah, but you're not including the pension aspect, which isn't out there for most people.
A lot of them
In
have-
the public
A lot of them
sector.
have a 401K, Steve, where the company contributes. It's not that much different.
And the healthcare plan is the top of the line thing.
We do not have a top-of-the-line healthcare plan at all. Not at all.
What do you start your bus drivers at?
$12 an hour.
Isn't there a much larger risk for your employee starting out at 12 with possibly having damage to a vehicle or even having injuries or a death?
I suppose there could be, but we've never had it. We get good people for $12 an hour.
Okay, now you're
But
starting to answer my question.
it's a totally different job. It's not as detailed as Mary's job, okay? It's very different. You go pick people up, you drop them off. They're dealing with numbers, all kinds of things, okay?
See, I would say personally, it would be just the opposite. I'm more concerned about that employee at $12 an hour making a mistake and causing some damage to a vehicle or personal damage or personal injury to a...
Well, they start at 12, they go up over a period of time, they don't tend to leave, okay?
Well, I agree with that. See, I'm in agreement.
Okay, but we're talking
So
two
Mike, why
different
don't you
things,
come
Mike.
why don't you go around with some of my employees one
See what
day?
they do, you
Why
don't even
you
know what
go?
they do.
Come on in. We'll show you what they do. I would venture to say you wouldn't do the job for $12 an hour.
I
And
probably
most people
wouldn't, 'cause I
won't. I've
can't
had
walk.
people.
Well, if you could, I mean,
I've
it's-
had people that said they're not interested for $12 an hour to do what they have to do in this job.
Don't you see any comparison though? I mean, $12 an hour for a person who has responsibility over other people's lives compared to $15 an hour for going and measuring houses? You don't see that?
I think, I have people who go out on properties and get yelled at and quite honestly could be afraid of someone bringing a gun out on them. I think that's pretty highly dangerous. In this climate, in this county, sure. That's why I want to make sure that they're safe and that they're going to do their job correctly. I
What do you
want
mean-
good people.
What do you mean by this county?
This county, we've got, I'm just saying, I think it's just, there's,
There's what? A danger more inherent here than in Cook or DuPage or something?
I don't know. The reality is, it's a dangerous job. People don't always like someone from the assessment office on their property.
You mean like what happened at my house when my wife was given snide comments by your employees? Recently? Like 2 weeks ago? Where we're criticized for having political signs in our yard?
Well,
Okay?
you should have called me. I get calls sometimes, but.
Fine, I want a complaint form because I intend to write one up. Okay?
I don't
You know
have a
all
complaint
about it
form,
since you
so-
apparently tried to intimidate me by sending them out.
You live in the township. I'm required to update your property, of whether you're an elected official or not. So but
I'm not personally impressed with your staff, okay? Direct experience.
you don't have to be. I-
Experience.
You don't have to be.
The professionalism is completely lacking.
I disagree. I absolutely disagree.
You weren't there.
I get compliments a lot of times.
I'm talking about my personal experience.
I don't know what the conversation was, and you didn't call me, and apparently didn't have an issue with it then, because I haven't heard about it until just now. If someone has an issue with my staff, I hear about it right away. This is the first I'm hearing about whatever you're talking about.
Really?
Yes,
I'm sure your people reported back to you.
you are
We're getting
incorrect.
hearsay
You're
now. Let's
incorrect.
stop this. Okay, we're talking about the budget.
All right, this HRA, that's really one of these imaginary figures then of what it could be, right?
That's the maximum that could be. It has to be there in case it does happen, and it doesn't get spent. It has to go to HRA. It can't go anywhere else.
Then why wasn't it there in all the other budgets?
It is.
It is.
It is.
It is.
No, at this particular rate.
Oh, we increased it because, I don't know if this particular rate was in there before or not. This is the worst case scenario.
Was it the worst case scenario in the prior budget?
I don't have the
Yes.
answer to that, was it?
Yes. It's always been done.
It's always been
The
done.
worst case scenario changes on the number of employees too.
Correct, and it changes based on whether a family or an individual or
Right.
employee and child. whatever.
So Steve, to answer your
But it's
question,
always been on
it
every
was there.
budget.
It's always been there.
Fine. And so you've increased the number of employees and
Well, the change, yes, change in insurance.
Change in insurance too will do that.
I'm still trying to figure out how there could be overtime with the assessor's office.
Overtime would only be during appeal time when we're under time constraints and need to get appeals filed with the county. We're required to have all of our information in 5 days before a hearing. Sometimes there's scheduling. Just means that we have to put in some extra time. It's rare, but it does happen.
And so is there a reason why the overtime budget is doubled from what was actually used last year?
It's a budget.
No, I'm saying.
I don't know.
I'm
because
trying to
I
say,
don't-
why did you come up with 5,000?
Well, because this is a quadrennial. I may have to go more than 2,200 that we had last year. So the budget should account for room to do something different if I have to. To try to prevent coming back and moving money from another line item.
All right, so there's 7 full-time people in your office now,
Correct.
and last year there was how many?
6.5. 6'12", 1/2.
And in 17, 18,
Six and a half.
or to the explanation of why it went down from 18, from 17 is that apparently somebody left and wasn't replaced. So the actual salaries
Right,
decreased, but not because of,
right, there was a gap
Okay.
when someone was replaced.
I know we talked about the appraisal under contractual services, that there should be some money set aside for that. And I'm trying to figure out if this 8,000 is more like a worst-case possibility, or if it's a real amount. I asked that because nothing was spent last year.
I never know if I'm going to need an appraisal. If I do, I don't know what it's going to cost. But typically, it would be for commercial property, and that's typically going to be somewhere, at least if I get to get the county or school district to help pay that, we're talking minimally 2,500. They may not. It may go to 5,000. It all depends. It's not something that we do unless we need to, but this is also a quadrennial, and if you're gonna, here's the bottom line, we're not gonna spend it if we don't need it, but if we need it, there should be money in there for an appraisal, because the appraisal, the reason to do the appraisal is to make sure that we keep the value of that property where it should be.
In these agreements with school districts and so on, that never comes up to being an intergovernmental agreement.
No.
No, it's just the last appraisal that we ordered, I think was my split with the county. It was $5,000, the county paid $2,500, and we paid $2,500.
And that was like over 3 years ago.
It was, I think it was 2015, the last quad.
And we're now in the modern age of metered postage, right?
I'm sorry?
And we're now in the modern age of metered postage, right?
Yes.
And you're printing and publishing that amounts to newspaper ads, or?
We have printing, basically, that would be our, we have cards that we use at properties to fill out property information. We order them from Minuteman.
In the capital outlay, the 5,000, what,
We talked about that, that's for her printer,
I'm
That
sorry.
was for the
for her
printer,
copier.
or copier.
We've discussed that
That was
several
at the
times.
last meeting.
Well, please refresh my memory, is that for a past printer or for something she wants to get now?
It was a new printer that we got last year. Part of it was paid for out of last year's budget, and the rest will be paid out of this year's budget.
So it was a $10,000 printer then, more or less.
7,500. Again,
And we're saving money on ink because everything's included with the printer now, so it's saving us a tremendous amount of money.
Okay, so are
Compared to
there any
before.
other capital outlays?
not that I'm aware of. But again, if something's going to break down, we need to have some money. You act like I'm gonna spend this money just to spend it. If the idea of the budget is to have it there if something breaks down, if I need it. We know we need 2,500 of that for actually it's like 2,600 to the balance of the copier.
No questions further?
Okay, anybody have any other questions for these?
I'm done with mine.
If everybody's done, she's gonna type that up and that'll be what's presented, okay? All right,
Yes, absolutely.
okay, we're all in agreement?
So
Okay.
just so, the changes were that, to the dues would be $100, subscriptions
That's it.
$1,500, right?
Yes,
We're just changing the dues to 100 would be it.
Yeah, that's.
And that was it?
that's
That's
it.
it.
Right.
Reducing it to 100, I'll get you your copy.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's move on to, back to the town budget now.
We're not making headway.
Yep. Okay, first, page number 3. I don't know if we changed it this time or last time, but athletic field fees have gone up to $4,700 they expect to take in.
That's going
Oh.
up, you said?
Wait a minute, what's over in the right-hand column?
There's a column there without a heading.
That's proposed. We believe we're gonna take in 4,700 in athletic fees from the 3,952 last year.
Is that fees that you're adding?
Those are
Right
fees
now.
that, yes, those are fees that the teams pay, et cetera. We also have tournaments, and tournaments pay
Yeah.
good money.
That's not
So we're expecting,
That's just saying that's what it was.
we're expecting
before.
more.
We increased it.
Oh,
47.
Is that
It's not a
in this
separate account.
list here?
All right.
It looks
The
like
tournament
it's
fees?
I said,
That will be included in athletic field fees. It's not separate.
Okay, Terry was going to come up with a,
He did, and I'm sorry, I will get that for you. He did, and actually in, not this year, I think 3 years out, okay, best of my memory. The fees will totally pay for the maintenance of the fields.
3 years out.
3 years
So
out.
we'll be subsidizing.
We're kind of, we're raising it, well, we're still gonna talk about that ed thing in a different way, which would change that too, so.
Okay.
So, but he had, and I will be happy to get it for you, but he had it figured out where he's gonna slowly raise the fees in the third year.
And has that been presented to the different groups that?
It has not been, but we don't see it as being an issue. We don't see it by losing anybody because of us doing it.
Well, it's a simple adjustment for them.
Yeah, it's
On
not,
the
it's
fees they
not.
charge the children.
Correct, it's just,
Come in.
they just up the fees, yeah. So we're looking at a 3-year,
Is there any way that that could be done in a 2-year?
I'll look at it,
Because, I really feel very sincerely about the taxpayers should be subsidizing this stuff.
No, I agree with that, and that's why at the next board meeting, we're gonna discuss possibly ways to sell ads out, okay? Which would, might do it in a year, now, might do it this year.
Yeah. That'd be good.
So basically, the only changes from.
That was the only change, I believe.
That and the senior bus fares, that was it.
And I increased the senior bus fares, which are going up, next month, beginning
beginning of May.
beginning of May, they're going to $2.
So I don't see any.
But that's really
But
not,
it's voluntary, yes, it is voluntary,
Right.
but a lot of people will pay it.
So then we're down to page 3.
Okay, we're done with page 3 unless there's any questions on that.
Well, let's go through page 3. I got a lot of suggestions on I want to put anyway, so I don't know when the right time to put them in, but I want to go through page 3. I'll wait for my suggestions. Excuse me.
I guess first of all, do we have anything else for page, those are our revenues. Okay, none being heard, we're gonna move on. All right, page 4. I did increase salaries elected, mainly due to these meetings, gentlemen. I wasn't expecting to have this many meetings, so that's why I've increased it, would mainly be to pay you guys. Would be the difference there. Highway commissioner, you know, that's half of, the town pays half of it according to statute, half of his salary. Everything else there is pretty self-explanatory.
So why do you have 6 elected officials?
You guys are elected officials.
But why do you have 6?
Because there's 6.
4, you guys, Mary and me, that's 6. Oh, there should be 7, really. I should have Dan in there, I'm sorry.
But we're all, but
Mary's not in that elected official.
Oh, she's in her own budget, I'm sorry.
Dan's in there.
So Dan, you 4,
So
that's
4
5, and me
trustees,
6.
Dan and Todd.
That's what it is. Dan, you 4
They're all
trustees, and
on
myself. Mary's on her own, that's right.
Or half of the road commissioner's salary.
And half the road commissioner's salary. I didn't,
That's not in the elected.
well, no, that's in the
separate.
next
It's a
line.
separate
But it's in
line
it, I know.
It's on the next line.
So where's my share of the 107,000?
item, Right?
but the salary people are on
We'll
salary.
gladly pay you on Tuesday.
Salaries is underneath that.
No, I mean,
That's the third line.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Mahady and the supervisor don't get any extra money for having to come to the budget meeting, right?
No, they're not, they don't. I'm putting you guys in, the trustees in for that. That's what that's for, because I wasn't anticipating 10 or 12 budget meetings last year, so I anticipate we'll probably have that many next year, so.
No, it'll be less,
Okay, well,
because there's a learning curve.
that's fine. Well, then, we won't spend it all if that's the case.
There wouldn't have been that many if it was done in prior years.
All right, so everything, is there any other questions on personnel?
Well, I would think you can lower for next year because I don't believe we're gonna have that many meetings either. And just to kind of predict with Steve here, find exactly what's going on.
All right, how many meetings you think we're gonna have next year? You can't tell me, I can't tell me. That's what
I
I'm
would
thinking.
say at least half.
Okay, so.
I don't know, there's other trustees here, for myself, for my end of it, my major changes are coming up now, so I don't look
You know
next
what?
year.
If you want me to reduce it by half of the meetings we had this year, I'm happy to do
I
that.
would suggest that.
Okay.
I don't think, is everybody else okay with that?
Is everybody else on board with that?
If anything, we could just,
What?
we could, instead of making them 3-hour sessions, we could, if we need to, we could just go just longer time. In other words.
We could,
That
yeah.
would save,
But anyway, I think we can lower that number at least half and be comfortable.
and so the HRA figure and support,
Say worst case scenario.
yeah, right, okay.
And salaries, is that figured in the 2.5% that we agreed upon for the,
No, you guys never discussed that with me. You said 2.5 for Jim. Do you want it to be 2.5 for her also?
well, I think that would only be fair.
I don't have an issue with that. Is that what everybody's pleasure is?
I think that's.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I will change those salaries to 2.5%.
Well, I'm okay with the salary increase, as long as there's some, as long as there's a reduction in personnel. I mean,
I
in the
can't-
real world, most non-public sector employees do not have pensions, and they don't have automatic cost of living increases. Okay? So, I don't want people to get the idea that it's automatic.
Steve, before you were here, there was, I believe, 2 years where there was no increases back in 2007, 2008 because of the economy. It's not automatic.
Plus, we already agreed on for the road district increase, so.
For existing personnel.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah, and
Existing
we have to
personnel.
keep it consistent,
Mhm.
right?
He's not talking about that. Steve's not talking about the increase, he's talking about personnel.
Personnel.
That's what he's talking about
This
right
is
now.
just personnel in my office. I can't cut any personnel, gentlemen. I've got Debbie, I've got Flo.
I'm just saying that's what this question is. It's
Yeah,
not-
I
It's the
can't-
question not about the 2.5.
Okay, and currently in that office, I can't cut anybody. We're as lean as we can be. We've had the exact same number of employees for a number of years. I can't even tell you how many years. We're not adding.
So there's notation on equipment maintenance. This is really, this is not for the parks.
No,
right?
this is for administration. We reclassed some things. Do you have
That
those?
means Stan's office equipment, because it's a service agreement.
Yeah, we didn't have it
And
there.
MITC service agreement.
Stan's office and MITC, which is our new timekeeping system, which we hope to have off the ground in the next month, month and a half.
What is risk management?
Risk management is insurance. Torma, our Torma insurance.
Okay. And that applies to the bus service as
Yes.
well?
Yes,
It's the whole town.
it's the whole township. Except the road district, not the road district, whole township. The road district is not.
Assessor's office.
I'm
Assessor's
sorry,
office.
Debbie's telling me the road district is in there. Is in there, she said.
So
How can we raise Debbie's
all
salary?
three branches of the township.
Yeah.
Assessor's office.
Yes, that's the entire bill for the Torma insurance.
All right, so just so we're done, are we going to schedule a bonus for people who come up with ways, employees, non-elected officials? Because they should be doing that anyway. But the actual salaried people, if they come up with a way that actually saves the township money, they should get some kind, I mean, a significant amount. That they should get a bonus of some fraction of what the savings is.
Wouldn't it be part of our job to do that anyway?
I'm not against it, but we'd have to highly define that program.
Yeah, I would think that's their job to do it anyway, Steve.
Well, I'm in agreement with Steve. I think being creative and thinking outside the box is something that we should be striving for. And when somebody does do something that will save money.
If somebody comes up with a way to save $100,000
Okay, I agree
or
with you.
$50,000,
I don't disagree with you, Steve. We have to put what is that savings gonna be that qualifies them for a bonus? Because people will come along, I've been at companies before, I saved you $10, I want my $100 bonus now.
well, that,
I know, it doesn't make sense, but that's what happens in these programs if you don't carefully.
well, in the coming months after the budget's done, we can sit down. and
Let's
come
sit down for the next year and figure that out. I'm all for that, as long as we can hammer it out correctly.
up. They know all the ins and outs.
I would agree.
Now, not for elected officials though, because they should be doing that.
That's your job.
We understand that. Oh, I want to put it, it's also their job, and they already do it, but I'm not against the bonus, though, if that's what you want to do.
Any ideas coming up
Not right
at
now.
this time?
Well, they'd wait now
Just have
until
a
there's something, they'd wait until there's a program.
That's what I would do.
Somebody's listening, yes.
But we can discuss that next year's budget, because otherwise we have to change everything.
So the training,
Training again is TOI, various other trainings. We have trainings on, how to deal with people that are mentally ill, et cetera. For general assistance, there's a variety of trainings that we go to.
yeah, I know, but you only did less than 1,000 last year, now you want 4. So is there something coming up? I just want to know the rationale for
Sure.
why it's bulleted.
be honest with
We
you.
have more participating in the training.
Oh, that's
this
correct.
year.
We have more people participating in training. And that training is also for you as trustees, if you want to go to a training.
Right.
Wait a minute.
But Dan's,
We're up there on travel mileage.
that's.
You're also there too.
reimbursements. Any training you go to, you
But
get reimbursement.
It's not just the travel, the mileage, it's the actual payment of the training, which is different.
Right. Because
Oh,
even
okay.
Dan's been doing more.
Dan's
of
been doing
the-
more training.
His are more the webinars and stuff, but those are like between what?
25 and 50.
35
Yeah, they're cheap, 25 to 50 bucks.
when we do them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
That
economy,
doesn't account for the travel then.
That doesn't account for travel, that counts for going to.
and the subscriptions are what again?
All right, dues and subscriptions.
Dues and subscriptions, where are they?
Oh, last
All right, there's this dues to this what, this McHenry County Governmental
McHenry
Association?
County
year. Yeah.
Council on
Yeah,
Governments,
Council
which,
of Gov-
the
How much
council,
is that, how much is that?
$500, I
Hold on.
believe.
500.
Okay,
You have Sam's.
and that's like what, 100 or something?
Yeah. It's 80. It's 100. TSI, which is Township Supervisor. No, that's the trustees one. TSI. Hold on, I'll look up the exact name. That's $35 a year.
Mhm.
You have Mchenry Area Chamber. You have Wonder Lake Chamber. We have, IT, it's a senior service one. Senior,
Oh, ITASCA.
that's it. It's not really
ITAS,
ITASCA though. It's-
something like that.
It's ITASC.
That's a association that helps us plan activities for our seniors. It comes up with best practices.
You have Johnsburg,
Jaffa.
Java, Council of Governments,
The Council of Governments.
McHenry County Council of Governments.
So that's the $500 one?
Yes.
That is.
Okay.
And then you have the TOI Trustees Division. And the TSI one is for the clerk, I believe.
All right. So general assistance is actually going down?
General assistance is not in this budget.
Not in
It has
this
its own
budget.
budget.
Oh, it's transfer, okay, sorry.
Yeah, the transfer's gone down.
And the consulting services for what?
Consulting services,
That's
Our-
the
Hey,
big
hey, Steve, I want to stay on that page there. I want to talk about the newsletter,
okay.
about the contract of services. You're just saying about the newsletter.
This is page 4, correct?
It's
Yeah,
just
we're on
under
page 4.
contractual services.
Yeah,
Just not addition with the, yeah.
Yeah, can you look that one up, Doug? I don't know that we have a newsletter. Oh, yeah, I guess we do.
It's
We
right
do have
here.
we
It's
do have
right
parts
at
of
the
it on
newsletter,
there, you're right.
9,000. That's a pleasure.
All right, so for the consulting.
But I mentioned that earlier, Steve, I don't know if there's support on the board or not, but as far as I'm concerned, I know it's cut down expenses, I brought that up, and they did a nice job cutting it down.
We did.
But for my end of it, after some of these newsletters that keep coming up, we talked about before, about some of the political stuff's in there, I don't think we need a newsletter here at all. So I don't know if there's any support on the.
I would just say that every other government entity, library, school district has a newsletter. It's not like we're the only ones. And we're trying to cut costs, we're trying to get it to the point where, we did cut costs, we're trying to get it to the point where it's self-funding.
But my suggestion is to cut it.
Okay, that's your suggestion. I can't cut it this year because
I understand.
you're talking about future years.
I can't cut if there's not support. I don't know.
How do the rest of you feel?
I'm just throwing it out and see what other discussion is from other board
Most of the
members.
newsletter is information to our residents on programs, services, the assessor's information, that they get their exemptions in, et cetera.
you also, then it's supposed to be a cut in postage too if you get rid of the newsletter.
Correct, there would be.
No,
There wouldn't be?
no.
Because
Postage
that
is
9,000
taken out of the
includes
same
the
line
mailing
item.
of it?
Oh, it's taken on the same line item that he's telling me.
Everything
okay.
for the newsletter is
So
taken
Taken
out
out
of
of the
the same
newsletter
line
line
item.
item.
Okay. Right here.
Well,
9,000.
I guess let's bring this up at future meeting. I can't cut it this year because we're in the process of getting ads, okay? Some people have already committed, so I would have a tough time reversing that, but we could certainly look at it for next year.
What if the ads paid for it?
Ads are very expensive. Some of them are $3,500.
No, he's saying what
Oh.
if the ads pay for it?
Would
For
the
the
ads pay?
newsletter.
Yes,
If it
eventually.
does.
It's figured out to pay for it entirely. But I don't know that I'm gonna have them all this
I
year.
have a
that's what I'm
problem with the
saying.
content in it.
Well, right, but that's.
I have a problem with this road district consolidation, the content that was in it, Steve.
I understand you have a problem with the content, but
Well, when is the deadline for the trustees
I
section?
already told you, I'm not quite sure. I'm still working on these ads.
Okay. I just
sometime-
don't wanna
I will
be
give you-
told while
I
you're
will-
such
No,
a
I'm gonna
late
give you at
night.
least 2 weeks' notice, Steve.
Okay. That's for the next one.
What's
Yep.
that?
300 words.
300
Trustees.
words. You get to put an article in there jointly as trustees or whatever.
I don't think it should be used for that, okay? But it is. My feeling is, why do we have a newsletter?
What-
But so we gotta commit it, let's discuss it later. We have to make a commitment.
We can discuss it in future board meetings if you'd like for the following year. But it's been cut at least in half, Bob, from previous.
I understand
And
that.
I agree, it was too
Commend you
expensive.
for it,
Yeah.
I commend you for that.
Okay.
So there isn't a Johnsburg chamber that we belong to?
Johnsburg does have a chamber. They have the Johnsburg Area Business Association, which is basically their chamber.
Okay. And we belong to these chambers, why?
We go to some of their events and give information. It's a common thing done in governments. Do we absolutely have to belong, Steve? No, I guess we don't absolutely have to. That's a call for you guys.
Well, as I brought up before, I was a little upset to see that there was a booth for the township and then another booth bought for the assessor's office.
And your suggestion has been well received, and that will not happen again.
Can I get back to the newsletter, Steve? I want to at least poll the board to see if there's support not to have it, and then go from there.
Okay. So, gentlemen, Bob wants to poll the board if we should or should not have a newsletter at all. And as I'm going to point out to you again, all forms of government, libraries, everybody has one.
And this is also with, though, starting with, after you get through this next one, because you said you already got.
Right, so it wouldn't be
I'm
for
not
this.
talking about this
You're just
one.
looking for a poll. We can't make any decisions here
Exactly,
anyway.
right, yeah, exactly.
So he's looking for a poll on that.
To actually get rid of it.
How would you stand on that, Mr. Rick? So would you,
I would say get rid of it.
okay, Mr. Wojcicki?
I say keep it.
Okay, I say keep it. Mr. Beer?
Well, given the fact that we can move to the digital age,
We can?
we're already paying for a website with everything in it. I'd be inclined to get rid of it, especially because it's been used as a mouthpiece for political ends. Also, the size of it is enormous.
The size of it has gone way down. It used to be 20-some pages. Oh, the new one coming out is only going to be 12 pages.
If there is a way to make it content neutral, and if it paid for itself through ads,
Okay.
then I'd be inclined to listen to it, the continuation of it.
All right, so we'll move on.
But as a net law, as it is now,
Well, how about if we approve the contents of the newsletter, and then make everybody happy?
No, we can't.
You can't do that.
There's no way to do this. That's not our job. That should be our job.
But I will, I hear you, Mr. Beer. Let's revisit this after this year, see where we're at for next year's budget. And we are moving toward digital too. We are going to ask people to sign up with their email addresses so we reduce print eventually. So that will further reduce the cost. So, Bob, we've heard it, I think,
So I would say no, as things stand now, out.
I'm sorry.
I mean, we get back to this problem with, this is the 17th highest tax county in the state. I realize the township is only a small percentage of that. But, you know, something has got to give. And that's one of the things that's, yeah, it would be nice if we were back in 1972 and the money's coming in and people are rational. It isn't so nice now. People are being taxed out of their home. So anything to reduce the township expenses, especially over things that aren't necessary, I'm all for. And as our motto says, what is it? We do more for less?
Mhm.
Okay, let's start practicing that.
We have been practicing, I'm gonna point it out. We've had a flat levy for 6 years in a row, a 10% abatement last year, and a 10% reduction this year. So don't act like it
You
hasn't been
only got
happening.
flat levies because you got a board now that wants a flat.
Well, another
Okay.
thing I think we should consider is,
You weren't the board that approved flat levies, Steve. They were approved for 6 years prior to you.
These are elections.
Okay,
you know,
let's
snafu
move on. Let's
That are
move on.
done before the election. We all know what it is. The other 3
They were
years,
done
they're
6
not.
years in a row, and there was no election in some of those years, Steve. So that's an
Yeah,
inaccurate
because the
statement.
microscope is on township
That's an
government.
inaccurate statement.
Let's get back to the newsletter.
I think personally, maybe we're the trendsetters. We might not be the biggest budget portion of our tax bills, but maybe we could be trendsetters and show the way to municipalities and other groups, that, library districts that are putting these things out, and maybe cut back and say, hey, we're gonna try to help the taxpayer out a little bit.
That's right. So we're gonna look at that for next year, is that what we're saying?
Well, what I'm saying here is, what I heard is a 3-2 vote to get rid of it. So what I'm hearing is that to phase it out, and at least if you got, people have got ads for at least this, is
I
it
got
for just the next letter?
For three, they're doing it all at one time, 3 more letters.
Okay, then I would say after that's over with.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay?
Okay?
Is that what we're, is that what
Is
you're
that okay?
understanding?
So it will
So
stay.
as long as you got the commitment, after
Okay.
that it's over.
Okay.
I can live with it, thank you.
All right.
So the accounting bill is up because,
Where is that, Steve? Not seeing it.
It'll
Oh,
probably
there.
stay the same. What's happening is depending at the end of the year, sometimes we'll get that bill in time for the end of year,
Sometimes we
and
do.
sometimes we get it after. So it just depends upon how it falls. Because in March and April, the accountant is here quite a bit.
when do we get our bill from TOI about the risk management?
We already got it.
We already got it.
So how much is it?
I believe it's $41,000.
40. I just put it in yesterday, so hold on.
What you don't see in there, Steve, and we just got a check back recently, I believe it was
Like 5,000.
for us, but a total check of 11,000.
It's 11, yeah.
So it's a
a
rebate,
split.
there are no claims made?
It has nothing to do with,
Right.
it has to do with claims across the entire state for townships,
Oh.
because it's a mutual company.
Okay.
So we just received, maybe a month ago, an $11,000+ check and a rebate. So this $41,000 figure is what it's gonna, what we have to pay out, but later on, we anticipate a rebate.
It was 32.
And where do rebates show up on the budget?
That comes back to.
It goes against the line item.
directly. So that's why the line item now.
But if you look
goes
back,
down.
if you look back at risk management for, it was down to $29,231 because of the rebate for the previous year there. Prior to that, it had a higher figure in there. It's replied back to the line item.
5441 is what we got back.
Okay. Is that the only thing that the township ordinarily gets rebates back on?
Yes. Well, there is some stuff in GA, but we'll talk about that. I don't know if we get rebates or anything else that I can think of.
We just recently got a utility rebate. I mean,
Oh,
we
okay.
do get some rebates, but
we got a
They're
utility
minimal,
rebate because of
and
the
they go
change.
back directly to whatever
the
line
line
item
item.
it was
Okay.
expected.
We did get a utility rebate because this board agreed to change everything to LEDs, so we got a rebate for
Right.
that.
And that's GAAP, right? Right, Mr. Motella? Should go back to the line item that
That's
it
good.
came from.
It's going back to the line item it
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah.
Gap accounting practice.
And the consulting service?
We
Consulting
just went over
service.
all that.
Just went
That's
over.
all those, that's things place will go and. Shoot, no,
There was some newsletter in that one.
I'm looking it up right now. All right, so you got Thinkways, Go Local, Wolfwork. I'll have to look it up.
I don't know what that is.
We had some from from Shaw, which would be Northwest Herald.
Okay. So some of the
A
consulting.
lot of it is Shaw.
Some of it is really the consulting for the township newsletter.
I would think, not that Shaw would be, is it?
Well, that could be what the
I
Shaw.
think that is, could that be misclassified? Should have been under publishing for Shaw? No?
I don't think so, but I don't know. There's quite a few of them, so.
I don't remember paying Shaw. Let me further look into that, Steve, and I'll get you a more accurate answer after I go back and look.
Yeah.
Okay, because when I see township newsletter, I expect that to be the total costs that are actually expended or budgeted for the newsletter.
Yes.
Not have it spread to other
Right,
things.
right.
It's not.
It's not, she's saying.
That's not what this is.
Are we done with that page?
I'm on that page.
No, I'm looking at the direct funded services.
Yeah, that's the
Where are we
next
at?
Well, this is I don't have the one you've got. I've got
You're on page
page
5.
on page 5 right here. I don't have the lines of people. This is the one I got.
You don't have, oh, you brought
Was that, you did that today?
No, I don't know. I just picked it up here. But anyway, direct funded services, McHenry County Recycle
Okay,
Education.
that is for the schools. That includes Harrison School and Hilltop? Or
Hilltop
Valley
and
for-
Riverwood
For the
and,
schools, what is it doing?
They do recycling programs for the kids.
to teach them,
They teach them about recycling and
the proper way to do it.
the proper way to do
Okay,
it,
so
being
see-
green.
I'm gonna check that next school board meeting, see if we're doing anything with that.
I believe you are, but it's
Yeah,
part
Yeah,
I'll check
part
it
of
out.
they do-
I'm
they
not
do an
complaining.
education
If
class.
that's, I didn't know what that was
They
doing.
do an educational
But if it's
program.
going to the schools,
It's going to the schools.
that was one of my things that.
Well, it goes to,
Doesn't go to the schools,
McHenry County Recyclers.
but it goes to the school
Well,
program.
it's-
I gotta make sure the school, I wanna make sure,
Right.
if
It's
we're not,
going- it's
if
being
we're
used-
not following, it would be better.
We
I'll
get
check it out.
a, we get a letter
I'll
from
check that
them
next board
stating
meeting.
what schools and how many students were.
How many students were there and what was done, and we
I'll
could
report
find,
back to you to see what we do at Hearst School.
you do have it there.
Okay. Mosquito abatement, I know that's gotta be controversial, but
Well, that's locked in as a contract, so
for how long?
I believe till the end of my term. So we
Till
got
the
the
next
same-
year,
No, the end of my term, 2021,
2021?
yeah.
Oh.
Because it was a 4-year contract at the same price, that's why we signed it.
Well, so you're going up to 68,000. Why is that?
I had extra in there, and that's up to
We
you
did
guys. I put 64,000, but I put 68 in there because last year we had a terrible mosquito year, and I had tons and tons of calls in the unincorporated areas to do spraying. I didn't have any money to do spraying. The city of Mchenry did spraying, Crystal Lake did spraying, Johnsburg did spraying. So I just put some extra money in there in case it was a bad mosquito year that we would need to send them out to do some spraying at night.
Well, I want the $4,000 out of that. I'm also questioning about spraying for mosquitoes to begin with.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then you signed a contract, so I think that's further discussion that I would think, in other words, you signed that contract as supervisor, not with board support?
I think,
or did you have board support?
I think it was signed before you guys came on.
Oh, I know, I didn't, not
No,
since I've been.
I think it happened.
But did it happen, did you have board support for that?
Yes, yes, I did.
Oh, so.
It happened before you guys were here, so.
So before this would, so it's up until 2021?
After the next election, it's done.
So when will we deal with it for the next cycle?
Oh, probably.
We got 2 more years of it.
Right, probably a year before they'll come with a new contract or want to discuss
Okay,
it.
so then we'll discuss it.
You'll discuss it at some point in time.
Because I got reservations about that.
Okay.
Okay, so at least at this time of the board, I don't think we should spend the extra 4,000 on extra spraying.
Just granted, I wouldn't spend it unless we needed to spend it, so it's up to you guys.
Well, if it's a contract,
No, the 64,000 is the contract.
The 64 is the contract.
I've got an extra
He's just throwing another
I
4,000.
got another 4,000
on
in
there.
case we needed to do spraying because it got so bad.
Well,
Or
that
last year, Crystal Lake did it, McHenry did it. McHenry did
but
it 2 or
isn't
3 years.
that all part of the contract?
No,
No,
the contract was
I'm-
larvicide mostly.
Oh, okay.
this contract is 64,000.
And there is some helicopter spraying in that, but I'm talking about a truck going down the street at night, you know.
And no matter how much you're spraying, it's always gonna be mosquitoes.
I wouldn't argue,
Guaranteed.
I wouldn't argue with you.
And you can never get rid of them, and they do fly 20 miles an hour, I read that once. No matter where you go, you're gonna have a mosquito problem.
We need more beds.
But anyway, I don't know if
What's-
I'm feeling we should take 4,000.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think we should too.
Okay,
I agree.
okay. Steve, don't need your opinion, but I'm sure you'll agree, so we'll take the $4,000 out of there.
The nuisance ordinance, we gotta do that because we lost that one.
Gotta do that.
Well, who
Who said
decides
it
where
was-
it's gonna be sprayed? The supervisor, right?
No, the supervisor's not decided, it's decided by Clark Environmental.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of entomologists that decide, they have traps in the area to decide where it should be sprayed.
If they had their way, the bill would be 1,680,000.
Well, it is what it is. So
The senior program, net,
that's the money that goes back, it's a few programs that happen here, seniors pay for it, we pay the bill, they give us the fee back, so it's just a recycling
I'm gonna
back.
be telling.
Okay, it's
I
not,
got that, I forgot that.
not a
Okay.
big deal.
So that $5,000 grant that you gave to,
That had nothing to do with
so
seniors,
that's not the,
no, that's,
okay. Now, the nuisance enforcement ordinance, as I understand it, that weed thing only came in last year, right?
no, it was previously, it was here for years. This board took it away and then put it back.
Yeah. That was the way, and it came back and sort of, yeah.
Okay, so,
This board decided to put it back.
so nothing was actually spent on it last year?
No, because we didn't have a program last year.
That's good.
And it really doesn't cost us anything because it's liens put on their property, et cetera, if we do something. So when that
There's an
property sells, we get the money back.
Yeah, there's an upfront cost.
There's an upfront cost, yeah, but in the long run, we get the monies back.
Okay. I don't have any trouble with the budget item for 2000, Steve.
And the historical society? It's like a
Historical s-
donation?
Okay, now, I just got, and I will forward this letter to you.
I have.
Did you bring it? I did not, I want you to know I did not solicit this, it just came. It was,
It comes every year.
well, but they have a certain, what they want to use it for this year.
I had somebody give me $1,000.
Get rid of
I
it.
send a letter every year too.
And it
allows for people from the township to go to this thing in Union for free.
They get to go for free for a week, but also it's going to do something else, Steve, as soon as you can find the letter, that it's going to benefit a variety of kids in the schools this year.
Somebody knew this was going on, but I thought.
No, honest to God, I had nothing.
Well,
to do.
all I know is I got word at one of my school board meetings.
Oh,
The
okay.
board president, somebody knew, you know, and I didn't
Okay.
think we could have that, and she said, Bob, she told me all the good things that we
Okay.
get out of it, so
Yeah.
somehow it got back to me at the school board.
I
meeting
just want you to
2
know,
weeks ago.
I had nothing to do.
I'm not saying you did. Somehow things get out there. that it came with the school. My feeling is, I wanna get rid of it, but show me what you gotta show. I don't think we should spend them give them $1,000.
All right, I can just make a copy of it for everybody,
Make a
but
copy.
they,
Tell 'em
it
what
gives
it
the
says.
schools, all Mchenry Township schools, the ability, they have 5 classes, they get a free field trip, and they're not charged for it. Otherwise, it's normally $3 a student per trip.
That's exactly what I got from the school board president.
But
I'm
does
I told
anybody
her
ever do
I'm
it?
not gonna vote for it anyway.
Does anybody in the township ever take the kids?
No, yes, yes.
The schools.
The schools are taking the kids.
These are the schools.
These are the
taking
schools taking the
field
kids.
trip
And
there.
a field trip directly from the school.
So they get to take the field trip for free.
So the city of McHenry isn't paying into it?
I don't know if the city of McHenry's paying into it, they may be. I have no idea.
I would assume so.
I would assume they are too, but I don't know
I
that.
could look at their budget.
McGallica.
I say get rid of it.
I can, either make a copy for this now, or do you guys want me
I
to
already
email?
got my, I don't want one.
I would like to have a copy.
Thank you.
And then one for the
I'm not being
public.
rude to you. I mean, from my point of view,
We'll make us
I want
5
to get rid
copies.
of it. I don't know about the rest of the board, but
Okay.
you check with the board and see what they want to do.
Okay, gentlemen, this is gonna go to support, I don't know how many students. What, is there a grade level on there, Debbie? I think there was. I should bring it back.
Well, all I'm asking is, are we the only entity in the township that's paying into it? Is
No.
this like a township thing? They hit
No,
up all the
no,
townships?
no. They go to a variety of governments and get donations. We're not the only one.
This is why it's so hard to get rid of everything. It's how hard it is to get rid of TOI, because there's all different side benefits to that, and they just continue, and that's why we get in my lifetime to where we are.
Well, that's why government
Overhead
expands,
with expenses.
as long as the money keeps coming in.
So until we get that back, let's move down, Bob. We'll come back to that, I guess.
Special events.
Special events. Special events are events here held by the township for various things. Last year it was high because of the wall that heals. We paid for that expense for that to come here. And then so that would be, I'm trying to think.
Be to touch the truck.
Touch a truck, various things that, special events that happen here at the township.
Why is Touch a Truck under the town budget, not under the road district budget?
Actually, it wouldn't be touch a truck, I'm wrong. It would be other things.
Wall that heals.
Wall that heals was last year's big one.
Okay, now let's look at that. So, how much of that 9,100 was gone to the wall that heals?
That was probably 7,000 of it. No, 5,000. 5,000.
Okay, so, you're only budgeted 4,000, so where did the money come from to pay for the entirety of the special event?
What do you mean, where did it come from?
Well,
It came out of the budget.
what was over budget, so
Oh.
what made up the shortfall?
We made line item transfers that you just approved at the last meeting.
I'll tell my board president.
That's where it came from.
Thank you.
We underspent our total budget last year
Sure, yes,
by,
we
I
did.
can't remember how much, Steve, quite a bit.
All right. So, is there any big plans for this upcoming fiscal year that we're actually already in, right?
Correct. I can't think of any big special events that we're planning. The only thing, I don't think that'll, I might need $1,000 in there, Steve. We're gonna have a recycling, paper recycling event here, where people can come bring their documents to be shredded.
And why is this a necessary township function?
You can say it isn't if you wanna choose it not to be. Residents appreciate it and like it.
We need to call one anyways, because
Okay.
we're doing our record. We're getting rid of our records from the state.
Okay.
So when we do the recycling,
Oh,
we'll
we
be
have
able
to
to
do,
get
we have to
rid
do
of
our
all
own. That's
our-
right. We have to do our own, or we're gonna have to
we have
go.
to do our own, which we would have to pay for.
We'd have to pay
anyways.
for it, so.
Now, wait a minute, we have a shredder here, right?
No, we're
Not that
talking,
kind of
we're
shredder,
talking
no.
industrial shredder we can see. We can't, our shredder will not handle it.
How many, How many records does the township generate a year? Is it ju-
It's not
It's
done
not a year,
yearly.
it's not done
Some
yearly, it's-
records have to be kept for 4 years,
Some have to be kept for 7,
6, some
so
for 7,
7, so then what we do is we group them all together, the state.
So every year, there's a certain amount
No.
of
We
stuff
don't
that
do
has
it,
to be.
well, you're correct, but we don't do it every year.
We don't
hold
do it every year.
Because it's a very labor-intensive process. We have to have the state come in, they have to go through those records, they have to agree that we can destroy them. And so we're not calling them in for one box of records. Nor would they be appreciative of that
And all departments will be doing it.
at the same time.
We all do it at the same time to save as much money as possible. We don't call them two separate records.
Actually, you can't get rid of records unless you have their permission.
Correct.
Due to the
Right, I have
Records Retention
to,
Act. Right. And
we're in that process now of getting that submitted.
we have to call the state.
And each
at least
department
archives.
is doing that at this time. We're hoping to have it all ready to go in June.
Debbie, we didn't have any other special events planned, did we, for next year that I can't think of that.
Vacation, no, not that I can think of.
Okay, so gentlemen, I'm willing to lower that to $1,000, if that is okay with you.
Which one are we?
Special events,
Special events.
You gonna reduce it to what?
$1,000.
He's got 5,000. It's a good it's a good change.
I won't need 5,000.
This, this is my old one here, right here. Special events right here.
All right. What's this NISRA
I'm
program?
on page 5.
Those are
Illinois what?
That is,
Our Illinois Special Recreation
right,
Association.
special recreation for children with.
The township has a, it was entered into
Special events, right here.
way before my
He's gonna change
time.
that to 4.
Many-
He's taking 4 off, he's gonna change that.
I'm in agreement with that, down to.
The one, okay, fine. Steve was asking the question, what is NISRA? It's Northern Illinois Special Recreation Association for people that are developmentally disabled for the most part. They have various recreation programs for them. A lot of cities belong to NISRA. City of Mchenry belongs, and it costs a lot of money, like $40,000, $50,000 a year. I don't know exactly what the figure is. So what that allows the people in the city of McHenry, their children that participate in those programs get the, for better lack of a term, the in-network rate, okay? There's an in-network rate if you belong to NISRA and an out-of-network rate if you don't belong. The township elected years ago not to belong to NISRA because of the costs. So what we do instead is, people that are in the township that qualify, that are not in the cities that belong, pay the entire out-of-network fee, and we reimburse them the difference between the out-of-network fee and the in-network fee, so they pay the same as they would if they lived in the city of McHenry or an entity that belongs to that. Most of the cities belong to it. So it's a reimbursement program to give them the same fee as if we had belonged to NISRA, which would be very expensive. So this was the way to make it even for them.
So how many people actually use it?
It depends,
Depends upon the year.
the year and what programs and.
Okay, 619, what is that for last year? How many people would that be?
For the 619,
That means you're giving,
hold on, I can tell you.
the township is cutting individual checks back to these people,
Correct.
right?
Where?
Yeah, I can tell you, hold on. I wanna say, there's quite a few.
I don't recall ever seeing any of these things.
You would see it.
It's in the budget every
It's
month.
in, it's in the.
No, I'm talking
packets
about-
every month.
It's in the packet every month. It's in the bills every
One,
month.
two,
But this is a seasonal thing in the summer,
No,
right?
No,
not.
it's all year
Summer,
round.
winter, fall.
It's all year round.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like we had 14 last year.
So that means it's about a $50.
It depends,
Cost.
yeah, it depends upon what they're doing.
Depends upon the program, what they're doing.
Right.
Now, does that mean 15 different people or
15
15
different-
different allocations?
And
It's
each
15
allocation would be a different person.
Well,
or a
not-
different program and it could be the same person.
Could be the same, but there's 14 individuals, Steve, that took advantage of it, but they might have got paid more than once.
Correct.
They submit after they complete the program. And to make sure they've completed the program, we get a document from NISRA saying they paid it.
Right.
So we just don't take their word for it.
Okay, so obviously that figure can be reduced in half to $750 a year.
How about I suggest 800? You never know what's gonna happen. The year before it was 738 if you look over there.
Yeah, but it can come out of the contingency, right? Or miscellaneous, or however you work it, I mean.
Right, but if you have a line item, you don't want to be using contingency for a line item.
You're not
you
supposed to be
already
doing
have.
it.
All right, can we go with 800 on
Can we go with
that?
$800?
I would say it's a good spot.
On
Everybody,
that
o-
particular
everybody okay with
figure.
$800 there? Okay, I'm fine with that. So we're gonna change NISR to $800.
DOI extension program, doesn't seem to have been used last year.
You know what, we didn't
We didn't
pay,
get a thing,
we never got a bill from them, and,
but we did get a letter for the request.
we did.
I have that.
Be truthful with you, gentlemen, I'm okay with that, just eliminating that.
I'm with that too.
Okay. Eliminate
Okay.
that.
We do want you to be truthful, Mr. Adams,
I'm always truthful, Mr. Greer.
but you don't have to specify it.
Okay, we made those changes. Going back to McHenry County.
Well, I'm asking Mr. Militello on the nuisance ordinance enforcement, you think that's a prudent amount? Because he'll be the one enforcing it, right?
It will be. I don't anticipate it being more than that. A lot of times, the cost is the filing of the lien document and filing the recording document, and usually it's a couple $100. So in those particular cases, you probably could get 4 or 5 liens on that, out of that sum of money. So I think that would be ample at this time. Unless you have a lot of weed issues going forward, I'd look at it next year, but for this year, that's fine.
We're looking at 2 years ago, that's what came in around, so that's why we budgeted what we budgeted. Assuming it'll be similar.
Okay.
McHenry, DOT McRide, that's a yearly thing that this board has approved.
Yeah.
That is the exact cost.
The whole thing's going
Now,
up.
wait a minute. A yearly thing, this board approved when?
It was approved by this board before you came,
Just
Steve.
before you came.
Just before you
About a month
came.
or two before you guys came.
Okay,
Before you came.
and that's, what is it for? Why isn't it in the Senior Express?
Because it is not Senior Express, it is a county program that runs, that will take you anywhere in McHenry County.
Okay,
I
okay.
explained McBride. He understood that.
Right, it's McRide.
Now, if the Senior Express was dropped, would our McRide go up?
I don't have an answer to that, but I can tell you, I've already talked to the county, they cannot handle our Senior Express rides nor put pace, as the woman told you that was here.
Actually, she couldn't tell us anything definitive, okay, because she didn't know.
Well, she clearly told me there's no way they could handle that additional volume. Plus, pace, none of you have probably ridden pace. If you get on a pace bus to go somewhere, you may sit on that bus 2 hours to get there, okay, because they have to go here, to here, to here, to here, to here. Our bus, I would venture to say you're not on that bus more than 30 or 40 minutes. And when you're a senior, sitting on a bus for 2 hours to get to one location is very inconvenient. Especially if you're going to a doctor.
Well, because of the cost differentials, one can be free despite the donation request. Over time, you're going to have an exodus from the paying inconvenient one to the one that's
No, you're
free
not,
and less
because
and more convenient.
you are not, because only seniors and disabled in Mchenry Township can ride our bus. Regular individuals cannot. They have to ride pace.
So do people have to register in advance?
Yes, they do. They register with us in advance first.
I don't mean just for the ride. I mean, they have to be a registered person in order
Yes,
to get the ride.
yes. They have to call here. We have to make sure they live in the township. They have to meet the requirements before they can ride our bus.
So what documentation does the township require?
We asked for their address, and we know we're picking them up at that address, so we could therefore tell. And we also, normally, Steve, they're hooked to us through senior services or some other way. So we have documents for social service agencies, so there are documentation of their age, where they live, et cetera.
Right, and to be a senior, you have to be how old again?
We don't really discriminate. We use 60, I believe, as the number.
Somebody came out, no, it came out at 55. That question, it came out at 55, qualified. That was one of the questions that brought up.
Is it 55? All right, it is 55 then.
I kind of
That is
screamed.
true.
55, a senior? You're just getting started.
ARP says 50, so
ARP says 50.
I'm a senior.
To be honest with you, the majority of our people riding that bus are not 55 years old.
Yeah, and,
The majority of people riding that bus are 80 and 90 years
I'm
old.
only 39, I
Yeah,
don't
right.
qualify.
Most people that are 50 are still driving their
They're
own
driving
car.
themselves, they don't want to get on a
All I
bus.
know is,
that is funny, though.
All right, let's go back to, we didn't finish Mchenry County Historical Society. Everybody's got that letter now? Did Debbie get a chance to-
On that letter, it says that the payment was due on the 12th of April.
And I told them I wouldn't pay it till this board approved it.
Okay, so it hasn't been.
No, it has not been paid.
no, I'm a no.
Okay, Bob's a no.
Get rid of it.
Mr. Rakestraw?
No.
No. Mr. Wojciechowski?
No.
Mr. Beer?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna cross out,
What is your vote?
my vote is yes to stay at,
4-1.
doesn't matter. We're gonna cross out the McHenry County Historical Society, take them off the list. Okay.
And how long have we been on it?
How long have we been a member of McHenry County Historical Society? Before my time, I can't tell you.
It's been years.
Years.
So over the course of time, it's been thousands of dollars.
Well, of course.
Of course.
Thousands
The
of
cost of doing
$1,000 a
business.
year. And I don't know that it was always 1,000 years, but it been less than that at some point.
It's been a long time, 1,000, wasn't it?
It has been.
I've seen it.
All right, any other questions on the town board?
So the furniture equipment jumped last year, right? This is on page 5. Furniture equipment software.
We had a software expense of $5,000 last year we weren't expecting. And why else, I don't know.
So in the future, could that be a separate line item of software?
Sure.
And then what's the difference between furniture and equipment?
Well, it's, a chair, computer equipment, or software for the computer. It's all one line item. But if you want to break it out to just software, we could do that.
All right, in this Excalibur contract that the township has entered into for the computer, that's just for the maintenance and so on, the security.
Maintenance, security, everything to do with our computer system is dependent upon them.
All right.
So the software is from what?
Software.
It's just the initial software?
Hold on. No, there's yearly subscriptions to software.
The software, the bigger expense was the MITC upgrade.
Okay, well, there's
And
why.
adding that in, but the biggest expense was the scanning DocuWare, the replacement of DocuWare with the
Oh,
dash.
yes.
That was 15,000, that was not expected.
Correct.
But luckily, we had it in there to do.
We had it to do last year. We have a current electronic document system that, since I've been here, does not function correctly. So we are changing to one that does function correctly.
Thank you.
But as you can see, for this year, we don't expect only 5,500 or so. And previous year was 5,300. There's Windows, various things you have to pay for subscriptions every few years or every year now.
Does the digitalization result in cost savings over time?
For
It'll reduce cost savings for FOIA requests, I can tell you that. It also saves us on storage once we store all these documents, the physical document.
Yeah, we'll actually be able to be more paperless.
And one more
We
paperless.
won't be complete 100%, but we will be closer,
Right,
as close as possible.
close as possible.
Within state.
No one can be 100% paperless. It's been tried, it doesn't work.
And then the final question for me is this upgrading of the phone system.
That is something that we just found out about. We have a phone system by Shortel Telephone. It's probably been here 8 years, 10 years, something in that, some in that range. It's a voice over internet protocol phone system. We were just informed recently that they are no longer in business. That phone system will no longer be supported. They sold out to a new company. You know, stuff changes in the digital age. That phone system will not work with this new digital stuff that's coming up. So we're gonna have to replace all of our telephones, and we estimated, we had how many phones, Deb? I can't remember. Quite a few. At $250 a phone, about. It's part of it, was it not?
Yeah. Okay, so we just received this information, and officially, the support for our ShoreTel software will end in December of this year, 2019. It was bought out by another company, or they merged with another company, and they are no longer going to support the ShoreTel 4.2. So we have to look at upgrading. We did get some information, we did some research, and I want to say the phones were like $299 each. We approximated about 30 of them, and if we go with a voice over, and none of this is set in stone because we don't know.
We don't know.
We haven't even started. We just found this out a few weeks ago. So we're just starting the research to get information, and we've talked with 3 different companies that are going to be sending us information on what we have, what we need, and what it would cost to upgrade what we have.
And it's not unusual today for every 10 years to need a new phone system anymore. And also, if this would be over $20,000, obviously we would go to bid.
Yeah. If it's over 20,000, we have to go for bid.
If it's less than 20, can you still go for bid, or?
Sure, we can.
We can.
We can, and in this case, I think I would, yes. I mean, if it comes in at $19,000, I'm certainly gonna wanna check.
So what are the
Either
other,
way.
what are the other capital fund expenditures that have been planned besides the phone upgrade?
We just had 10,000 in there, that was it. I don't know that there's any other.
I don't know if there's any plan. I think we put 10,000 in there just in case.
I mean, everything else has been pretty much upgraded over the last couple of years.
We're really good on computers now for the next few years. We're good on photocopiers. Last thing would be our phone system. Any more questions on that page? Okay, page 6, yes. Obviously, last year we had a lot of contingencies come out of there, I don't remember why. But we don't anticipate that happening this year. We scaled it back to 2 years ago when it was 46,000.
So that was the only reason? You just went back to that period and decided that that would be an appropriate amount?
And looking at what was in there, that's normal budgeting practice. Anticipated a lot of those things will probably reoccur.
And should we get an $80,000 bill, there's room to take out money from other funds to make up the difference?
Maybe, maybe not as tight as you're making my budget.
This is your job, Mike.
What would, we could have an amended budget hearing if we had a large expense and move it from the reserve fund.
That's all.
The other option would be to pay whatever funds you did have available and stagger it over the budget period.
We could try that too.
I mean,
Yeah. In other words, you pay it at the end of the budget year and then carry it to the next budget year.
Okay.
Okay.
You do know, Mike, this is like with the road district, when you can't go from one fund to another.
Yeah, we can't move this from,
Something.
I can't take it out of anything.
Well, there's always the 10%.
No, not from
No,
one
no,
budget
that's
to
not what I'm
budget.
saying.
Not from
Yeah.
one fund.
For another fund.
With it, yeah.
I thought it was page 6.
Page 6, or we don't page 6? Okay, go to page 7, Senior Express. Oh, we're not done, Steve? Okay.
No, so we're on 7 now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is one of the items that I brought up back, all the way back in December. That it's not a mandated service, it's Senior Express, and as far as I'm concerned, to look for the future to eliminate it.
Like they did in Nunda Township.
Okay, first of all, Nunda Township, you got the wrong information. They did not eliminate it.
They did not, I have
They did
Well,
not.
how much other wrong information came from the expert? Okay.
Because she was correct. They eliminated their PACE program, but they have their own van. A lot of people will not participate in the PACE program because of the extensive amount of paperwork that is involved in getting these buses and keeping these buses. We have it down, so we don't mind participating. So Nunda still does have a program, but they have their own vehicle now. They did exit the PACE lease program because they didn't want to keep track of all the records.
Yeah, they still have a van that they use to provide seniors with door-to-door service.
And Algonquin Township still has the service, as do many other townships throughout the state.
Did we ever get a number how many townships have got it?
I don't have an exact number, but I can tell you, I don't know how I would get that, Bob, but I can tell you Schaumburg Township does it, Waukegan Township does it, Palatine Township does it.
Grant,
Well, you
Grant Township
could easily get it from TOI because they're insuring it.
You're correct, I guess I could.
Others haven't, but that, again, though, a lot of this, to me, what I'm going to be about it is they've gotten in township services because they don't have a service they do. Some of those townships he's talking about don't have, if you get into Cook County, you got this bus service, they don't assess property, they don't have a road district, it's all about just keeping this township function going, but anyway.
Well, I will tell you, in like Palatine and Waukegan Township, they have much better public transportation than we have out here.
Yeah.
Does Grafton Township?
Grafton Township does have it.
Does have.
I think you've got
Yes.
Richmond, but all of
Richmond-
our
Richmond
townships-
Township has
all of
it.
our townships don't have it.
Richmond Township has it, Burton Township has it. Now, when you get out in the far fringes, we're, way out there,
Greenwood does not have it.
Shamong, those areas, they don't have enough,
We have 17.
they don't have enough people out
They
there.
all
I
don't
want to
have
say
it.
4,
But there are,
6 of them don't have
but,
it,
Yeah, maybe 6 out of 17 don't have it.
I think.
And
They're the smaller ones.
some of those smaller ones that are way in outlying areas where they don't have many residents, so.
I can name 6 off the top of my head that don't have it, so there's gonna be more than that. Coral doesn't have it, Seneca doesn't have it, Alden doesn't have it, Chemung doesn't have it. Greenwood doesn't have it.
It's 5.
What was the last one you said?
I think it's like
Heck, there's 6, maybe there's one more.
You say Burton has it?
Burton has it?
Richmond.
Burton-
Is it in
Burton-
association with?
Or do they
Richmond?
contract with Richmond?
Burton and Richmond have a contract together.
Yeah.
They work together.
So they don't have it separately, they're together.
Well, Bert pays for their share.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, it's not a separate program, is what I'm
It's
saying.
one program, yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
But the McBride doesn't go into some of those.
Yes, it does.
It goes into the entire.
Oh, I'm not sure if they're a member of McBride. They may not. I don't
No,
know.
it doesn't go into all.
Well, number,
Richmond is a member of McBride. I know they are. And so
I
is
don't
Burton.
think-
So is
is
Burton.
Burton?
Yes, they are.
well, as you can see, it's not a cheap program.
No one said it is a cheap program.
It's not a cheap program.
Well, it all comes down to my way of thinking about cost per ride.
We still have the cheapest cost per ride of any public transportation service in McHenry County.
And that is,
I have to refigure it. Last time I gave it to you, it was $19 and something, Steve. I do have to refigure it based upon the actual gas usage of 20,487.96. So maybe it's gonna go to $20 a ride. That's still way cheaper than any other public transportation service.
which is a $40 round trip.
Correct.
And I don't think I just find that the insurance is unbelievable. $1,000.
It is what it is, Steve. That's what, you got a letter from Torma telling you that's what they're charging us, and that's what they're charging us.
Okay, but we're still waiting on the actual mileage from the buses.
I gave you the mileage in a folder last meeting, about that thick. You have it.
But the fuel,
The fuel was in there too, and the fuel sheets. I gave you everything you requested.
I don't recall seeing that.
I gave you a folder that thick.
Yeah,
The
well,
number
I
that
may
we-
stand corrected. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, it was all given to you.
I handed it to you.
But the number.
And the rest of the board commented they didn't want it.
Is the actual, so when you.
Oh, that one,
Yes, that one.
okay. Well,
That's what you asked for, and that's what you got.
That was the actual for last year.
right, I'll go over the mileage figures then, because something struck me as being completely preposterous about it.
Those are the actual figures.
Not the actual.
Those are the actual figures, and there's nothing preposterous about it.
I got some information, I went back to the information Donna Schaefer for the cost per ride. This goes back to January 14, 2013. And that cost per ride then was $19.42. And she said this cost is offset by grant funding. Okay, but
I did
I
not-
wanted what the true cost was.
Well, I did offset
And then
mine.
the figure you came out with was $15.77. But when I put in the grant cost with what we got right now, I came up with $23.85 a ride.
Did I take the grant costs off? I don't remember.
Yeah, you didn't put, yours
Okay, well,
yours
those
is without grants.
Those are
So-
not dollars we're paying, so.
I came up with a total cost, and I also came up with a little different figure off the PACE lease of putting it out, which would probably be like.
How do you come up with a different cost on the PACE lease? The PACE lease is $100 a
No,
month.
I'm just talking about true taxpayer cost per
No,
ride.
no, it is $100 a month.
No, I know,
Okay.
no, I'm just saying that PACE is different, you cannot rent a vehicle that's worth $60,000 or $100 a month.
I can.
There's other-
I can and I do.
No, you can, but there's other costs in there. So
There may
we're
be.
looking at the true cost of a ride that we're giving here at this township,
and you know-
adding that in.
You
That's
know
how
where
I
that,
look at it.
okay, you know where that money
I'm
comes
coming
from?
up with $23.85 a
Okay,
ride.
we're still probably cheaper than everybody.
I'm not looking at that, I'm just saying
It's
what's,
not, the other thing is,
that's what our actual cost is.
the actual, you wanna know where the money,
Taxpayer cost.
where the money comes from to fund those PACE buses? MFT fuel taxes, that's where it's coming from, and the feds. So it's not township tax
I'm
dollars.
not, I didn't say township,
It's not tax dollars.
if you look at township tax dollars, your figure is right.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm looking at total taxpayer cost to run the program to give somebody a ride.
I disagree.
I'm saying, I'm gonna say, I'll look at this figure and I'll stick with $23.85.
I disagree with you.
And-
You're adding factors in there that were not paid, so how can that be a cost? It can't be.
I'm talking about total taxpayer cost.
I don't know how you could come up with a higher cost for the buses when we pay $100 a month, Bob. You can't artificially put in a bigger number.
But then I could, even if I took that 50 cents, I only threw 50 cents off for that. So you'll still come out with $23.30.
But
Either way,
you're including the grant costs, which we don't pay for. They give us those monies.
Well, that's the problem of governmental overlap,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, either way,
And
we're-
then
we're-
it
you're
becomes
really
impossible
You're
to get
really
at the
way
real
above
cost.
the $15.77.
I will grant it's probably a little more than that when I add in this new gas cost, but it's
Yeah.
not
Well,
$23.
you already, I already got your gas cost in here.
Okay, so,
You gave us all those figures, you gave us all the figures.
I gave you those figures,
Yeah,
yeah.
we got them all.
All right,
It
but
didn't change it much.
No, it's not gonna change.
are all the
Yeah.
employee costs accounted for in that?
Yes,
I'm not talking about the drivers, but there's somebody who schedules,
it's in
Everything's
there.
on here.
It's in there under salaries.
and what about the time
That's all.
of the supervisor and the time of his assistants in the regular town organization that spend time administering this program?
They're in those costs. My salary's not in those costs, no.
But it should be, because
Well,
you're
that-
using your
okay,
time.
Steve, if you wanna do that, then we gotta remove it from elected officials' costs, or whatever.
No, I mean, how much of your time is spent overseeing and managing, administering the senior services?
I would have
Oh,
to,
just doing the grant.
I just do grants for the most part, and those are time consuming, but they're a once a year thing.
So would it be safe to say 5% of your time?
Oh, I don't even think it's that much,
3%?
2 to 3%.
But that's still, like, we're
Okay,
trying to do a
Steve.
cost accounting here,
Steve.
and a lot of stuff is missing.
You want,
That's
that's
the
not,
only thing missing.
it's the only thing missing then, if you
Well,
wanna add
I'm
that.
sure there are other things that aren't in here.
Those are our accounting records, okay? They're audited and verified.
I have a question. Bottom line here, 297,000.
Correct.
Okay. Now, on your other page where you got the income.
That's the cost, but income comes off of that cost.
Okay, so I'm looking at $53,600.
Right, that would-
Fares, grants, and vouchers.
That
Does
comes
that
off-
come off the 297?
Yes, it does.
It's not 297,
No.
it's more like 240,
Right,
225.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. We're showing you the actual expenses, and then you have to subtract the revenues on the other page.
Then the HRA, there'll be a rebate back, right? Just like
Yep,
everybody else.
There could be, yes.
Well, there probably.
There probably will be, yes,
Probably
correct.
less.
But it won't be spent.
We can only spend 3,200.
All right. The majority of our bus drivers are fairly young, so they don't have very many medical expenses. You'll see occupational health on there, they have to have drug testing at random now and then, that's what that's for.
Well, if there was support of the board to agree with me, how would we move forward to kind of phase it out? I know
Well,
we got some commitments.
yeah.
how
The
would we move in
supervisor's
that
already
situation?
done that.
Huh?
The supervisor has already begun that process by cutting down Sundays, right?
They're not cut out, yes, but they will be, yes. Yes.
For this budget.
This, well, that's not true, the budget started in April, we're not done yet, so. Yes, it will be cut
For
out.
the budget
As
we're
of
gonna
May
approve,
It's-
he's talking about.
It's happening, I'm sorry,
For
what?
the budget we're gonna approve, he's talking about, is that what he's saying?
Yeah, it's not in the budget you're gonna approve, correct, yeah.
Do you have any contracts that you are
Yeah,
committed to?
we have grants we're committed to. through-
For how long?
Through at least December or January next year.
One is in December.
We have PACE contracts that we're committed to, I don't know what the deal is in terms, we'd have to do research on how we would turn those buses back and when we can.
Change is never easy.
No.
So,
We don't
There
like-
is a time.
so this 3 full-time, 3 part-time, does that represent an increase?
No, it's the same. There's no increase.
Okay, so how many people would you have on the Sundays then going
I
forward?
only have one person on Sundays right now, and it's gonna end, I believe, June 1st.
So this salary figure that's higher than what was done last year with less hours represents the cost of the
Well, first of all, the
increase.
salary has to be changed, it's at 2.8%, we have to change that to 2.5, was your pleasure, so we have to revise that.
Okay. That was my next question. And the overtime is really something goes wrong and they have to stay over to get somebody back.
Correct, that occasionally happens. When somebody doesn't get out of dialysis in time, they have to get them home. So it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen.
Tips aren't allowed, right?
Tips are not allowed. And by the way, if this board hears of anybody taking a tip, I need to know that. Not allowed.
Well, the donation is not, they don't have to pay a donation either. That's optional too, Chris.
It's optional because of the federal
The federal
grant.
grant, right, yeah.
Most
I remember
of
talking
them,
about
most of them pay something,
Yeah,
okay?
right.
And most of them pay.
I'm
the-
just saying, but no.
I could
They're not
probably
forced to
tell you,
do it.
there's probably 2 or 3 individuals that really can't afford to pay much, and that, we don't, whatever they put in the box, they put in the box. That's where it is in the fairs, you'll get some odd
Probably a
change.
few more, put more than half to put in there too, I'm sure.
Some do. Sometimes I'll see a $20 bill and there's somebody saying, I want to reward you for all the rights you've given us, in addition to what I paid.
Now, we were told that the differential between the McBride program that overlaps the senior services program, the differential in the service itself is that the Senior Express, the township run program, will go up driveways and actually help people off with their bags.
Correct. And pick them up in the driveway. A lot of people are in wheelchairs.
Right. Okay. But the reason we were given that the PACE doesn't do that is because of the liability. So my question is merely this. Does TOI know all the details about the township program?
Yes, they do. They're quite aware. They come out here every couple of years and do an audit of what's going on to make sure they've got everything covered. And I would say our rate is cheap because we've had very little, if any, claims.
Oh, common carrier rates, that is such an abnormally low figure for what the CTA and everybody else is paying.
Well, the CTA is
It's $1,000, right? $1,000 extra to have 3 buses that could be simultaneously on the road, conducting around handicapped and elderly people with a maximum capacity of what, 12 possible in each bus? Something like that?
12 of them.
Okay, for
It is.
$1,000.
It is, Steve, and if you would like to talk to the insurance company directly, I'll be happy to give you their number.
Well, I'm just concerned we're getting the right figures,
You
because
are.
we're trying to liquefy it to a cost per ride using standard cost accounting principles, and the insurance is a part of that. That can't be just dismissed out. So,
You were given an order.
We gave you a letter from Torma.
yeah, I got the email from Torma, but,
I just,
Torma is a very good insurance program, what can I tell you?
well,
They're
it's a
well
it's a
managed.
captive insurance
They're
program.
well managed.
And I think Mr. Militello was checking to make sure that we were up to snuff on all the coverages and.
He was.
Yeah, just to give a little detail, we had gotten some information from them. On the initial, we were looking at some of the general liability issues and then looking at some of the individual schedules themselves. There was a slight discrepancy between what they said and what we saw, between 3 million and 5 million, so we followed up with them additionally, and it was $5 million of policy. Because one of the initial documents, or at least they commented it was 3 million, but they said we're paying for 5, so the question was, well, are we paying for 5 and getting 3?
I do remember that.
Yeah, so, we were able to nail it down. We are paying for 5 million, and we have 5 million policy, saw the deck page. The other part of it, we asked for individual schedules as to the auto, as to the property, things like that. And for purposes of your PACE, you actually are insured for 5 vehicles at a value of $71,500 for 3 vans, and then you have another one, a bus for 12 passengers at $72,000, and another van for $42,000. So you have actually 5 vehicles.
Well, we just got a new van, which I told the board about, and we're getting rid of our bus. We own a bus, we're gonna get rid of that at some point in time.
So that'll change.
That'll change.
That'll change, but the policy information they gave me was showing the.
Right, we do have one of our own, it's beyond, it's not in great shape for what we wanna do anymore, but it might be useful to a church or something to do occasional trips, so we're gonna look at selling that one van that we own.
Correct, comment or question. Are you saying all buses are worth 71,000 according to that?
They're putting.
That's the value of it.
The
The
value,
value of 71,000.
For
I
one-
thought she said the
one
buses
or
were
all of them?
60,000.
that is the 71,597.
But that's with depreciation.
Yeah, so that's the value that they're putting on there in the event of a replacement.
For
or
all the
something.
buses?
No, for one, 71,597 for one.
For one vehicle, I understand, for
For
one
one
vehicle.
vehicle. So the total amount for PACE that you have is 329,528, and that includes additional vehicles that we're probably getting rid of.
We're getting rid of one, so it'll come off.
I thought she said that the buses are worth $60,000. Why are they insured for 71,000?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Isn't that what she said, 60,000?
She said about, she didn't have
Yeah,
an exact.
I think it was a 55 to 60,000. for a
Well, these
bus like
guys-
that.
these-
Well, it wasn't
they-
71,000.
these guys
They
know
pull
their-
the VIN numbers.
they pull the
so
VIN numbers and know.
Each vehicle is identified by VIN number on there, so they may pull the VIN number and then give it a value, so.
Well, then maybe these buses are worth more than my figure right now.
They could be.
Huh?
They could
Maybe
be.
they are.
Well, that tells me those buses are, yeah. Because 71,000 a bus, so we got one that's an older bus, that's a standby bus, right?
That's a standby, that's paid for the.
So, but that's still part of their figure.
And that was worth how
So-
much? That-
So what they're
that
saying is the
last
buses
van,
are worth
how much was that?
71,000.
The last bus that we wanna get rid of?
They're saying 71.5, and that's. an
3,000
amount-
bucks.
Replacement value.
That's a
It's
value
all-
that they're putting
it's
on there.
used vehicle.
I don't know if that was a value that they determined based on the VIN number, or if that was a value this township said,
We
let's
did,
put
no,
on
no,
it.
no, we do not put a value on it.
So, that was a number they pulled from.
They
the
pulled it
VIN
from the
number.
VIN.
So it does not match with the figure what she said at the meeting you then.
Well, she said she thought about it, she doesn't buy vehicles, so she may be
So in
wrong.
other words, those vehicles are 71,000.
71,597 based on the insurance.
And the buses are used exclusively for the senior express. There's no other township
So it changes.
program or function that uses the buses.
None. None.
Anyway, it's, Mike's pointing at me, so I'm gonna say for him, I think you only get so much done in a day's time.
All right,
Yeah, we're after 12 o'clock, and I think once we have a meeting like this at 12 o'clock or so, it's enough for all of us.
that's fine. So I will make the changes to the town fund we talked about, bring that back. And then we'll come back and start at the bottom of Senior Express for the next meeting. How's that? Okay?
And are the intergovernmental agreements online now?
Not yet, but they will be. And we gave you the intergovernmental agreements, did we not, Debbie?
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about
No.
us to the public,
No.
so they can see what's
We're
going on.
working on that happening.
Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
Oh, wait, we got a
Oh,
little bit
sorry.
of problem of our next meeting. Jan won't be
Oh,
here.
Jan
How do
won't
you
be
get,
here.
How do you get across that?
All right, so.
Well, does the clerk have to be here,
Yeah, the
Mr.
clerk the clerk
Need
takes
somebody to take the
minutes. Yes, he does.
But these are being telephonically, or electronically recorded, right?
They are, but I would expect that the clerk should be here.
Clerk should be here.
Yeah.
Unless you continue to another date, if you're not.
Can we continue it to a Tuesday that week? It's bad for Bob, Wednesday.
I could, Tuesday's a bad day for me,
Okay.
but I can take off like a Wednesday, Thursday morning.
Okay,
if that
how,
would
how,
help.
how would a Wednesday be?
The problem is that when, I've served jury duty several times,
Oh, he doesn't know.
you don't know if you're gonna get
But
called the
that's
next
too
day.
much of
You
a
have to
gamble,
call.
though.
It is.
Let's
You have to call
reschedule.
in, so
Let's just reschedule. Cause I can do like a Wednesday morning,
I don't think,
or
No,
what
the
do you wanna
problem
do?
is he doesn't know if he'll be out.
I might be out the whole
A day
week.
or a week?
Oh, I see. That's right. Oh, cause he could be excused by that. Oh,
But
yeah.
is there a way you could be excused and then take the minutes based on that?
He could be excused. I mean, it depends. I mean, if he gets in there and they call you and then you are questioned, there may be a good chance you're out,
Yeah, but you won't know.
but you won't, you may
Right.
or may not.
So I'll
I
tell you
don't know
what.
that,
why don't we reschedule to Wednesday? If the board votes, I guess he could,
No, I mean, if he would be excused from our meeting.
that's what I'm saying. Can we vote to excuse him and take the minutes from the,
You could do that.
Or Greg, if we,
well, then it won't matter, we could have a Monday.
but he would be, if you come later on a Monday afternoon, could we do it later Monday afternoon?
I could do that too. Yeah, he might be excused Monday afternoon.
Is that good for you, Jim? Huh?
I can do
Could
Monday.
you do Monday afternoon? Do you want to
Let's try
start
and do it, and.
Monday at 1 PM or
What if I'm
1:30?
not?
What's that?
And what if I'm not?
Well, if you're not, then we're gonna, the board's
You're
going to,
excused.
gonna let you be excused, and you're gonna take the minutes from the recording.
Yeah.
Now, do we have to have the mics? If that's the case?
We probably should to make sure it's.
But it's easier, right? Because then it's at your leisure.
Yeah, and I can fast forward.
All right, so what are we doing? Monday, 1:30,
You pick it, I can do it anytime in the
1
afternoon.
o'clock is fine.
1 o'clock is fine, okay, Monday the
Is that good
3rd,
for you, Jim? One?
That's fine.
1 PM, Monday the 13th. And we're in agreement, let's just say yay if you're.
Monday the what day?
Monday the 6th, I'm sorry.
The sixth, yeah, the sixth.
Scared me there.
Monday the 6th at 1 PM instead of 9 AM.
So whether he's here or not, we're
We're,
still gonna
and
be here.
we're in agreement that he doesn't have to be here if he's excused, right? Everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't know.
There's a good chance you may be excused.
yeah, usually you're done.
When you're gone,
I think you could.
I'm hoping for a sequester.
I got called
There's a chance you
All right,
Never called me.
Okay.
who was the mo-
That was all.
No, so I'll make a motion then that in this meeting at
Okay.
12:12,
A motion by Mr. Anderson to
12:12.
adjourn the meeting at 12:12, seconded by Mr. Rakestraw. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None being heard, meeting is adjourned.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone.
On the scene when it's changing.
Glad all turned out well.
Let me stay behind for you. Okay, go ahead. And thanks for bringing this chair up, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have the chair.
Well, I guess I'm gonna make it.
What was that, Deb? What appointment?
I was kind of looking forward to getting out of my dental appointment. How's your wife?
She's good.
Yeah,
She's
everything
good.
went
She's
well.
good. Everything went take care, bro. Everyone take care. Yeah. You know what, it just, yeah. You do always.
Exactly, because you never know. Something simple can always end up being,
And you know what, it's so minuscule that they gotta work in that area.
that's even better.
Well, I'll tell you what. Same expense. They'd be very difficult. They should write on this. I see this.
You know,
You could go.
So what's more excruciating, dentist or here?
Oh, you know what? I am not a fan of the dentist at all, so I'm gonna have to say the dentist. But I found a new dentist about 3 years ago, and I don't have to take medication before I have to go or
So
nothing.
what are they supposed to do?
So that's a good thing. It's getting better.
You're very fortunate because you have people that take you.
You're right.
A lot of these people don't.
Oh, were you trying to get out of a meeting?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, and I'm like, really?
Did it show?
It was like way apparent. Don't you know you can, just take your minutes from the thing, and I would just,
I knew that. I was hoping they didn't.
so why are we changing it now? I missed it,
I have
so.
no idea. I don't know.
All good, all good.
Oh, I know that. I have a puppy that probably wants to get out of that cage pretty soon.
Just gives them another reason to be pissed off at you and make you run and chase
Oh, I
them.
know. He's gonna be barking at me like crazy when I get home. What the hell took you? You said you'd be right back.
No, it's like,
Oh,